You don't want to miss any bit of the program today. Of course, Mike will be beginning with some politics, just to let us know how the country is concerning matters politics. But even before we get into all of that, I'm seeing a story right here on the Daily Nation, which says Ruto state jobs shocker. A bit of some bad news for civil servants, as thousands of civil servants countrywide are staring at job losses after the cabinet yesterday approved plans to merge, restructure, dissolve or sell off government-owned firms in a bid to boost efficiency and service delivery while reducing costs and aligning with IMF's budgetary support program. So around 42 state corporations are being merged. So from 42 they will be merged and go down to around 20 corporations. We'll be looking more into that when we get to in the headlines. But as of now, Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Vivian, and to everyone who is watching Good Morning Kenya. Welcome to this live broadcast of Good Morning Kenya. And as Vivian has said, today is Wednesday and we have the Viewpoint. And she has highlighted one of the things that we'll be talking about, the cabinet approving the merger of 42 parastatals into 20. The idea is to boost efficiency. And first, 42 state corporations, some with duplicating or overlapping or related mandates, will be merged. Away from that, there was also a proposal to scrap the finance bill and bring about a multi-year tax policy to enhance tax stability in terms of tax regime within the country. This was a proposal by the new KRA chair, that is Nderito Mureithi. So is this actionable? Is it possible? It's one of the things that we shall be looking at in our talk today. Honorable Makali Mulu, who is MP Kitui Central, Honorable Wilson Sosion, former nominated MP, Brian Odua, who is a political analyst, and Wakili George Kithi will be joining me in studio shortly to talk about this and several others, several other matters involving politics within the country. Good morning, Marie.
A very good morning to you, Mike, Vivian, and definitely to you joining us from wherever you are across the country. My name is Marie Yambo, and definitely I'll be bringing you up to speed with what is happening in as far as the news is concerned, including what has already been mentioned in terms of the collapsing of some of the state corporations. There are details coming up in just a short while. But first things first, the axe is up. 9 state corporations to be dissolved, 42 others with similar mandates consolidated. And police boss Douglas Kanja says he is now ready to appear in court in person to shed light on the missing youth allegedly abducted by security officers. 27,000 households to be connected to the national grid in Kakamega following the launch of the multi-billion 4th phase of the last mile connectivity program. And newly installed American President Donald Trump ruffles the feathers of his opponents and some scholars with his raft of executive orders issued on day 1 in office. Details coming up in just a short while, but let's start first with the cabinet resolution, where 9 state corporations are set to be dissolved after the cabinet in a sitting in Kakamega on Tuesday ratified a report from the National Treasury on the assessment of 271 state corporations, excluding those earmarked for for privatization, that is. Now, the meeting chaired by President William Ruto resolved that the move will help streamline government operations and reduce wastage while enhancing service delivery. Let's hear more from this report by Gladys Mungai.
9 state corporations are on the chopping board after the cabinet sitting in Kakamega ratified a report by the National Treasury proposing a raft of reforms in state corporations. The decision is aimed at enhancing efficiency, cutting costs, and improving service delivery. The ambitious reforms, according to the cabinet, is part of a broader strategy to reshape Kenya's public sector and realign resources with the national government development goals under the current administration. The 9 to be dissolved include the Kenya SSFLI, and Trypanosomiasis Eradication Council, the Kenya Fishing Marketing Authority, Center for Mathematics, Science and Technology Education in Africa, the President's Award Kenya, Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, Kenya National Commission for UNESCO, the Kenya Film and Classification Board, National Council for Nomadic Education, and the Lapset Corridor Development Authority. The functions of these entities will be transferred to the relevant ministries or other state bodies to ensure continuity and improved accountability. The Cabinet also plans to consolidate 42 corporations with overlapping mandates into 20 entities. Some notable mergers include the Higher Education Loans Board and the University Fund to better manage education financing and increase access to higher education. The Kenya Tourism Board is also set to merge with Tourism Research Institute to create a unified body for tourism promotion and research. The Kenya Rural Roads Authority and the Kenya Urban Roads Authority will be merged to establish a single roads authority focused on connectivity across rural and urban areas. The Kenya Investment Authority is also set to be merged with the Kenya Export Promotion and Branding Agency to create a seamless framework for the promotion of investments and exports. The government has also identified 16 state corporations with outdated mandates or those whose services could be better delivered by the private sector. Some of these corporations for privatization include the Numerical Machining Complex and the Kenya Fishing Industries Corporation, which are no longer viable due to the market changes, Pyrethrum Processing Company of Kenya Limited, struggling with declining production and outdated processes, the Tana and Athi River Development Authority, and similar regional development authorities, whose mandate can now be incorporated into existing county frameworks. The aim is to offload inefficiencies from the government while encouraging the private sector to invest in these areas. 6 state corporations are also set for restructuring to align their mandates with the national priorities. Among them is the Kenya Utalii College to modernize training in the hospitality and tourism industry, the Postal Corporation of Kenya to adapt to a rapidly evolving digital economy and declining postal services. The Bomas of Kenya is also set for restructuring to reposition itself as a center for cultural tourism. Others include the National Housing Corporation to align it with the affordable housing agenda under the bottom-up economic transformation framework. These changes aim to make these entities more competitive and relevant in their respective sectors. The reforms are further aimed at addressing a growing public debt crisis, increased physical pressures, and inefficiencies in service delivery. With pending bills by state corporations reaching 94.4 billion shillings as of March 2024, the government sees this overhaul as a critical to stabilizing the economy and enhancing the effectiveness of the public services.
President William Ruto has launched the 4th phase of the last mile connectivity program in Kakamega County. At least 26,712 households in the populous county will benefit from the multi-billion project that seeks to have more Kenyans connected to the national grid. The president on a 5-day working tour in Western region, that he is there for a working tour, and Simon Achola tells us more.
Day 3 of his working tour of the Western region, and President William Ruto continued to unwrap goodies for the region.
Tumesema kama serikali ya Kenya, stima isiwe starehe ya wadosi. Stima iwe haki ya kila Mkenya.
Kazi yangu siku ya leo pamoja na wizara yangu ya kawi na mafuta ni kusaidia Mheshimiwa Rais kutekeleza ile ahadi yake aliwapatia. Kwa hivyo mimi nitaendelea kurudi hapa nifanye kazi pamoja na Mheshimiwa Ikana ili kuhakikisha ya kwamba stima imeenezwa katika kila boma.
The president has launched the 4th phase of the last mile connectivity, and 27,712 households in the county are set to benefit.
Sasa tukisha kuwekea stima, si ndio? Ile bill, si nimewaambia hakuna kulipa, lakini bill ya mwezi.
The 2.4 billion project will see at least 392 transformers installed and maximized in Kakamega County alone to ensure more and more Kenyans can access electricity in the county.
Hii Shinyalu hii tutaunganisha watu wa Shinyalu 2,500 kwa huduma ya stima. Tumewapatia pesa shilingi milioni 243 kuhakikisha kwamba nyinyi wangwana uko makwenu haijafika stima, tufikishe stima huko kwenu. Tumeelewana?
The president was accompanied by Deputy President Professor Kithure Kindiki, Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi, and the Speaker of the National Assembly, Moses Masika Wetangula. The leaders rallying the region to remain steadfast in support of the president and his development agenda.
Mheshimiwa Rais amesema hii umoja wa taifa anatafuta ili tulete maendeleo kwa wananchi. Tujenge barabara, tuweke stima, tuweke madawa kwa hospitali, mwananchi wa kawaida apate huduma. Mnakubaliana na rais?
Kama tunataka kwenda mbele na kusukuma gurudumu ya umoja wa nchi na maendeleo, lazima tushirikiane, tumuunge mkono rais wetu. Tutembee pamoja, tuhakikishe Kenya iko united and developing our country as one.
They also lashed out at the impeached former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua over his forays in the county.
Tupotoshwe na watu ambao wametolewa kwa kisheria, kwa kikatiba, alafu nazururu hapa wanadanganya ati hao ndio kuunda serikali. Serikali ni hii na sisi tutakuwa hapa. Na mimi nataka niwaambie tumeshikana kabisa, hii Kenya itakuwa na maendeleo zaidi.
Hatutaki watu watoke kule nje kuja kupanga sisi hapa. Mnasikia hayo? Ati Oparanya ameenda broad-based, hajafanyiwa hii, hajafanyiwa ile. Hao wajue mimi niko sawa na mimi niko na mdomo yangu, nikiwa na shida zangu mwenyewe nitaongea.
The president heads to Busia County for a series of development projects that will include the launch of markets, dams and Lower Nzoia irrigation scheme.
Now, Inspector General of Police Douglas Kanja says he's ready to appear before any court if summoned on the whereabouts of the missing Mlolongo 3. Speaking in Diani, that is in Kwale County, Kanja said he's ready to appear in person to state the true position about the 3 missing persons allegedly abducted by security officers.
Kanja was opening a week-long conference for top administration police commanders, said he will honor the court summons over the whereabouts of 3 people still missing after they were picked by people alleged to be security officers.
Hakuna shida yoyote. Na wakati ya kufika kotini, mimi mwenyewe nitafika binafsi. Na tutakuwa na nyinyi pale, si ni kweli? Na nitasema hiyo maneno vile nimesema hapa, sio?
Kanja, however, added that investigations on various cases of abductions are at an advanced stage and that all perpetrators he termed as criminals will be brought to book.
Nimepeana maagizo ya kwamba those investigations nataka zifanywe na zifanywe vizuri na ziweze kumalizika. Jabazi yote ambao anahusika na hiyo mambo akamatwe na apelekwe kotini, achughulikiwe kwa mujibu wa sheria, maana nchi yetu iko na sheria.
The IG also noted that the police service is working to go online by rolling out a digital occurrence book (OB) to enable Kenyans to report cases using their smartphones. A move he said will help curb corruption and improve service delivery.
Sisi kama wakubwa wa vitengo mbalimbali ya polisi tutafuata kuona ya kwamba hiyo ripoti umeweka pale inafuatiliwa. So that way we will make things much better. There are many other services that are offered by the police. Kwa sababu mimi mwenyewe I want the police to be driven to the next level through adoption and the deployment of technology within the policing services.
To the corridors of justice, where the government of Kenya has received a request from the Kingdom of Netherlands for the extradition of Jacobus Brouwer. The Director of Public Prosecutions through Senior Counsel Vincent Monda informed a Chief Magistrates Court that the convict is wanted back in his country to serve his jail term in relation to a rape case. Separately, at the Milimanis High Court, the main suspect in the horrific murder of 4 women in Eastleigh late last year Nigeria has also been charged.
The Dutch courts had convicted the foreign national for 3 offences related to the rape of minors in the year 2020. The prosecution told Chief Magistrate Lucas Onyina that Jacobus's attempts to appeal the conviction and sentencings have been dismissed by the Netherlands courts and should therefore be deported to serve his imprisonment. The court will rule on the deportation orders on 28th January. And the main suspect in the gruesome murders of 4 women from Eastleigh last year has finally been charged. Appearing virtually before Justice Kanye Kimondo, Hashim Danganye alias Hashim Khalif denied killing Dahalo Daud, Amina Dahir, Musaiba Abdi Mohammed, Dekar Abdi Noor Gonare in October last year. Hashim, who is currently at the Nairobi Area Remand Prison, will remain there for 7 days, even as the prosecution had vehemently rejected his release. The case will be mentioned for February 11th for further directions. In Kangundo, 4 suspects in kidnapping of former government official Titus Muchechi Kilika have been arraigned in Kangundo Law Court.
Of the bond shall be allowed for the first in respect of the first and second accused persons. Now for the third and fourth accused, nothing has been provided to link them to the communications or rather to any communication with the complainant.
Appearing before trial magistrate Sami Opande, 2 of them were released on a bond of 5 million shillings while 2 remain in custody after it was established they were threatening Muchechi's life and asking him to withdraw the case from the court. Meanwhile, Tharaka MP Gitonga Murugara, 4 MCAs and 3 other Tharaka Nithi residents have sought to be enjoined in a case at Meru High Court challenging the creation of administrative units in Tharaka Nithi.
Nimekaa kwa mahakama hizi za Kenya miaka 40 na imani ya kwamba haki tapatikana kwa pande zote mbili.
We are the beneficiaries of these administrative units and therefore we have to show our interest in the matter and defend it so that the outcome is also favorable to our people.
The residents want the operationalization of 4 sub-counties stopped. Those sued include the Attorney General, the Cabinet Secretaries for Interior, Lands, Education and Health.
Over to the U.S., where a section of opponents and scholars and other groups have faulted the U.S. President Donald Trump with his raft of executive orders that he signed on his day 1 in office. The groups say Trump has exceeded his limits of his presidential power and that they will challenge the moves in court. Some of the orders that have sparked outrage include starting the process of withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization, mass deportation of undocumented illegal immigrants back to their countries, and declaring a national emergency at the southern border. Timothy Kipnusu reports.
On his first day in office on Monday, just a few moments after being sworn in as the 47th president of the U.S., making his second return to the White House, President Donald Trump signed a raft of executive orders with far-reaching ramifications.
With these actions, we will begin the complete restoration of America and the revolution of common sense. It's all about common sense.
Trump signed an order to begin a mass crackdown on illegal immigrants. It is feared the crackdown is targeting about 11 million illegal immigrants.
Illegal entry will immediately be halted, and we will begin the process of returning millions and millions of criminal aliens back to the places from which they came.
Another sweeping strategy is to end automatic citizenship for U.S.-born children of illegal immigrants. He has also indefinitely suspended refugee resettlement, a program that for decades had allowed hundreds of thousands of people fleeing war and persecution worldwide to seek refuge in the United States. Trump also signed an executive order to begin the process of withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization, making it a second time he has issued such an order. He was critical of how the global agency handled COVID-19, accusing it of being biased towards China. The United States will also recognize only 2 genders after Trump signed executive orders proclaiming 2 biological sexes as male and female.
As of today, it will henceforth be the official policy of the United States government that there are only 2 genders, male and female.
TikTok also got a reprieve after he signed an order to delay the ban for 75 days and allow a possible resolution. In what appeared as a blow to climate change action, Trump signed a withdrawal from Paris Climate Treaty. He also issued 1,600 pardons in connection with the Capitol riots on 6 January 2021. Many prisoners are expected to be released within hours.
Locally, the Media Council of Kenya, MCK, is proposing the formulation of a curriculum which will support capacity building for news editors and sub-editors to enhance the quality of content for news bulletins. Speaking during the launch of this year's annual Journalism Excellence Awards in Nairobi, MCK Chief Executive Officer David Omoyo decried what he termed the increasing number of news stories which do not meet the set ethical standards.
Despite the media remaining a trusted source of information in the country, the Media Council of Kenya is expressing concerns over how stories are packaged. The Media Council of Kenya Chief Executive Officer David Omoyo says there are increasing cases of unethical content dominating news bulletins.
Literally, you watch news 9 up to 10, 15, it's obituaries. Nani ameua, na kama hawajua mtu nani ametusi mwingine and all that, isn't it? We rarely have inspiring stories.
MCK is asking editors and sub-editors to up their game in the review of the stories to enhance quality of news broadcasts.
Most importantly, and I hope the judges will help us, if we need to quickly develop a curriculum for sub-editors and editors. I honestly, because stories come in, isn't it? Against what benchmark do we clear stories as editors?
Meanwhile, the Media Council has launched the 2025 Annual Journalism Excellence Awards with a keen focus on vetting outstanding journalistic work, which focuses on tourism, national cohesion, and animal welfare.
Beginning this year now, we will award good journalism. If it is a health and medical story, it is one health and medical story, the best story. It will be on TV, it will be on radio, it will be on news. There will be one story. And of course, there are runners-up.
And sometimes people ask, what is in an award? Because sometimes some people feel like there's really nothing much to achieve from an award. But I can tell a lot of us who are products of these awards have excelled or have gone a notch higher because of those awards.
Let's look at business now. Well, Central Bank of Kenya Governor Dr. Kamau Thuge says the announcement by President Donald Trump that the United States will increase domestic crude oil production and exports will help lower fuel prices that could positively impact the inflation rate in Kenya. Dr. Thuge says increased crude oil production in the United States may lead to reduced global oil prices, thereby lowering fuel prices in Kenya, a significant component of Kenya's inflation metrics.
The inflation crisis was caused by massive overspending and escalating energy prices, and that is why today I will also declare a national energy emergency. We will drill, baby, drill.
The Trump administration is expected to increase funding for oil and gas projects to boost manufacturing by reducing the cost of power. Central Bank of Kenya Governor Kamau Thuge says increased oil production in the U.S. might translate to cheaper global fuel prices and could reduce both Kenya's import bill and inflation.
If that results in lower fuel prices, then it's also possible that that will contribute to lower inflation in the U.S. and also lower global inflation, and that could actually be a positive for the global economy.
However, trade policies that include new or increasing trade tariffs might strengthen the U.S. market, making it attractive to investors.
Federal Reserve System may also reduce the pace at which they would lower interest rates. And again, so if that happens, that also has an indirect impact on us because of the potential of capital now flowing back to the U.S., because interest rates would remain a bit more elevated than our earlier expectation.
Kenya and the United States have been negotiating on an economic partnership agreement that could be impacted by the new policies being implemented by the Trump administration.
Just heard about those pronouncements like you had yourself. So we are waiting and watching to see how things will evolve and studying, and as that, when necessary, then we can be able to take a position.
And shares of HF Group, that is, exchanged hands at between 8 shillings and 96 cents and a high of 9 shillings and 74 cents. On a day that the financial listed 1.5 billion new shares it added through a rights issue. Now, the firm's shares closed for trading at 9 shillings and 42 cents, representing a 5.13% price increase when compared to Monday's closing level.
HF Group targeted to raise additional capital by floating 1.15 billion shares through a rights issue that could increase through a green shoe option. Last month, the listed financier said it received applications for 1.59 billion shares worth 6.38 billion Kenya shillings, with the proceeds expected to finance the firm's expansion and automation.
This money will be put primarily in the bank itself. It's profitable, it is doing well. This is basically steroids to accelerate the growth. 15% of the money will be used to digitize the company, to create greater efficiency and effectiveness, and in the delivery of the services that we offer.
Officials attributed the over 38.32% oversubscription to high investor confidence.
Your vision, strategic approach, and unwavering commitment have not only strengthened the company's position, but have also reinforced investor confidence in our market's ability to support large transactions, even in a challenging operating environment.
The new shares were listed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange on Tuesday. The shares opened for trading at 8 shillings and 96 cents and touched a high of 9 shillings and 79 cents in the intraday trading before retreating to close at 9 shillings and 42 cents. During the day, 345,600 shares of the company were traded, with the day-to-day movement indicating a 5.13% price increase.
To sports now, where the national under-17 women's soccer team head coach Mildred Cheche is on a quest to qualify the junior starlets to their second FIFA World Cup after their historic debut in 2024. The team is scheduled to start their campaign next month against Uganda in the second round after they were given a bye in the opening round.
Cheche guided the junior starlets to their first ever appearance in the FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup in the Dominican Republic, where they recorded a historic win against Mexico, whom they beat 2-1 in their last group match. She believes they are capable of making another consecutive appearance if they come up with another formidable team.
We are hoping to win the match. It's not going to be easy because they are also an experienced side, but we also have a good team that we're going to push them to give us good results.
The Kenyan team was given a bye to the second round of the FIFA World Cup qualifiers this year, where they are scheduled to face Uganda between the 7th and 9th of March this year, before the return leg a week later. Uganda advanced to the second round after a resounding 18-0 aggregate win over Namibia in the first round. The Kenyan tactician expects to win that match, but cautions that it won't be a walk in the park.
It's a big challenge for African countries because I think the reason why they were given 5 years to host the World Cup is because they have quality facilities and they are more organized. So also other African countries should aim to have quality infrastructure.
The Kenya Under-17 women's team hopes to be in the camp by next week so as to prepare for that crucial encounter where the winners will progress to the third and final round of qualifiers. The FIFA Under-17 Women's World Cup will be held in Morocco for the first time and will feature 5 African teams out of 24. Morocco has already qualified automatically as the hosts.
Well, that's where we end the bulletin this morning. More news updates coming your way later on in our coverages. And my colleague Mike Megui is coming up next. My name is Marie Yambo.
Watu wakipata shida wanaanza kuona ni kama huu Mungu haexist. And many people have used this as a platform of argument.
And like many other topics,
yes,
faith is one of those topics that the Bible has a definition.
Okay.
Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things that are expected, things that are to come.
Faith is not the absence of facts.
Wenzako wa kuchakuchaku. Wanashiriki ndoto za usingizini tu.
Ala. Mambo muhimu kama hayo unaita upuzi. Hayo ni mambo ya kitoto. Kitu kama kiko hakifichiki.
Ama kweli waso haya wana mji wao. Wewe hujua makosa yako wewe.
Tangu lini tukashabikia mimba nje ya ndoa? Basi yeye kaifungia kibwebwe na kuichezea ngoma hasa.
Sitasikia, sitaona na sitasema uovu wote unaofanyika hapa kisiwani. Huu maskini wako utakupeleka pabaya sana. Maana siku hizi umekuwa mtumwa wa nafsi, kisa na maana ni wewe mwanao karembo. Basi mwanamume ni msimamo. Au unaofanya sio ya kiu.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. People they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I'll take a look so I can be relieved.
No need, no need. I confirmed it. She's back. Let's go, let's go.
I still need to talk to her. What is she up to?
Why did Director Xue agree to take on my project? I'm sorry, Mr. Zhang. Yesterday, due to a personal matter, the shooting was delayed. I'll make up for it and ensure to stick to the schedule.
You heartless guy. You left me alone yesterday, and I had to listen to Chief singing old classics all night.
To two argue again? My lady, you're already a married couple. Why do you two still compete with each other?
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Wagwan, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to share down the place with nothing but the best of smooth way the vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Colda,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa Hadija ai Mani especially ukisonga
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Mike. This is The Viewpoint, where we talk about politics and everything in between. Today, there's a lot to talk about, but before that, my guests are already in studio. On my far left is Honorable Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central. Karibu sana.
Hi, good morning, viewers.
And also Honorable Wilson Sosion, who is a former nominated MP. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, viewers.
And also Brian Oduor, who is a political analyst. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, viewers.
All right. Let's get the show on the road, and we do that by reading what is on the front page of our local dailies. Let me start with the Daily Nation. This is what is splashed on the front page of the Daily Nation. Ruto's state jobs shocker. Thousands of civil servants countrywide are staring at job losses as the cabinet yesterday approved plans to merge, restructure, dissolve or sell of government-owned firms in a bid to boost efficiency and service delivery while reducing costs and aligning with IMF budgetary support program. Some of the merged state corporations, University Fund, Higher Education Loans Board, Kenya Tourism Board, Tourism Research, it's tabulated on the front page of the Daily Nation. 189 teachers in scramble for 25,000 promotion posts. Tutors from across the country sending their application for 9,179 positions in post-primary schools and 16,109 slots in primary schools, as advertised by their employer recently. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa Makali. The idea of doing away with some of the state corporation and merging others, is this a welcome move in a bid to boost efficiency, according to you?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mike, for hosting us. I think the issue of parastatals in this country is an issue which has been discussed many, many times. And a lot of researchers, a lot of people who have done serious analysis have come up with a conclusion that there is need to restructure and reorganize, and even to an extent merge some. And this has come up as a result of analyzing the roles. It has been confirmed that there is a lot of duplication of roles in some of these parastatals. And if we want to improve efficiency, then automatically it's important that we get to have some either disappearing from the scene, because what they are doing can easily be done by other parastatals or other government agencies and be done in a more efficient manner. The second point, which has been important in justifying this move, is the fact that when you look at their budgets and the way they conduct their business, there are lots of what I would call, I don't want to call misuse, but a lot of them are not using money in a most effective manner, so that at the end of the day, Kenyans get value for money. And that's why when you look at, I think there's also another report which is indicating that as at yesterday, there were about, in terms of pending bills, the totality of all the parastatals, they hold different individuals and organizations about 94 billion, which is a lot of money. So looking at all these factors, and also with the pressure from World Bank and IMF, you know, there's that pressure, you can't rule it out because it has always been there. I think from where I sit, it is a move towards the right direction. But the question I would want to put to all this process is that we need to carry this in a very, very structured manner and in a very organized way, so that we don't, because what is likely to happen as a result of this restructuring, if we don't do it well, 3 or 4 things could happen. The first thing is that there could be loss of jobs, as you put.
Yes.
And you know, where we are as Kenyans now, unemployment is such a high, it's so high and a problem to Kenyans that if now any Kenyan loses job at this point, it is very bad to them and also to their families. The second thing is, if not properly managed, we could easily end up with marginalization. You know, some of these parastatals, if you look at the way even geographical locations and all that, some are in places which were actually like affirmative action. And if you just reorganize them without taking without really factoring, without considering the fact that some are addressing some very unique needs. For example, those ones which are found in the arid and semi-arid areas. Then you could easily marginalize those areas further. The other problem which is likely to happen, if the process is not managed well, you could have also people claiming to be victimized. Because, for example, if you have parastatal 1, A, B, 3 or 4, and then you dissolve mine, you merge another 2, you know, each one of them has a CEO and the top management, and there's a board. So immediately you dissolve or merge, it means automatically the top officials, some will lose their jobs, others, the board members will also lose their positions. And you know, Kenya is a country where when anything happens, people get to analyze the details in terms of where do we have that CEO coming from? Yeah. Who are the board members there? So you could also have those elements saying we have been victimized. And I think to me, this is what we are saying, the move is the correct move, but can we manage the process in a way that we are also fair to the process?
Managing the process.
Yes.
Honorable Sosion, one of the state corporations that is being merged is University Fund together with the Higher Education Loans Board. I want to get your views on that, and also what Mheshimiwa has said about managing the process.
Now, you know, in our governance system, and the first question we ask is that how were these several parastatals created with similar roles? If you look at University Fund Board and you look at Higher Education Loans Board, both of them are streaming revenues to the universities. So basically, they're doing one and the same thing.
Duplication.
And yes, duplication, which creates conflicts, which create confusion, and the sufferers in most cases are the end users of the products from these parastatals. I think what the cabinet decided is to make government, in terms of parastatals, lean and efficient. Efficiency is the key thing here. You reduce wastage. I don't think you create parastatals to create jobs.
Yeah.
It's a very bad theory that you think you are creating jobs by creating parastatals so that you create positions of board members. You create I don't think that is economically plausible. And we must bite the bullet in taking these actions so that then we ensure that this efficiency and transparency in government delivery of services. So that then eventually we strengthen our governance system, and the underpinning principle of Kenya Kwanza administration is to revive the economy and to strengthen the production sector. And once that is done, then you can create jobs. We must develop a reasonable governance system that creates a good ecosystem of creating jobs for all, but not jobs for some. We must be a country, we can't be a country of creating jobs for some selected few. Let us have an ecosystem that creates jobs for everyone. And that should be the philosophy. So I think in terms of correcting the mistakes of the past, and of course we cannot fear that the consequences will affect A, B, C, D. There are always transitions in transitional provisions so that you don't affect the workers working within those entities. And it doesn't mean merging is laying off workers. The number of workers who have been working in those entities, because we can go on and on. Look at the Tourist Improvement Fund and Tourism Development Fund. More or less the same thing. And therefore, matching and ensuring that the structures of accountability and delivery is key. So it's important to have a lean and efficient government that delivers better to the people and which speaks to the aspiration of Kenyans.
All right. Brian, it's about enhancing efficiency and service delivery and also aligning with IMF budgetary support programs. What's your take on that?
First and foremost, Bwana Mark, thank you. I'd like to state I totally disagree. I totally disagree with my friends over here, especially when it comes to job safety. You can't fire people and claim the reason for firing those people is so that the economy can be strong. I mean, it's some crazy oxymoron. To be realistic, anytime you hear IMF, World Bank, those tones, nothing good follows later. We can remember last year, before they were, the country, the government was about to pass the Finance Act. You remember what was the pressure? The pressure was from World Bank in Finance Bill. Now we are the people who are in Kenya right now. At this opportune time, you can't fire me from my job and tell me it is going to help create a better, strong economy. There is only one way to create a better, strong economy in a deficit economy. Kenya is a deficit economy, meaning that we borrow and we use more than we make. And the only way to strengthen a deficit economy is to use the funds that you've borrowed to expand the tax base by building infrastructure and let the people that you tax increase in number. Otherwise, what this government's constant approach is always to reduce the amount of people that they can tax. And then that falls on this face. Everything goes, I don't know, this is crazy, sir, for lack of a better word.
But then again, Mheshimiwa Makali, isn't that one of the hardest decisions, so to speak, that we have to make as a country?
You know, the thing is, as I said earlier, the people we are discussing today are people in post. They are already working. They are not people who are going to be employed as a result of what is happening. So the only thing which will happen automatically is by merging or dissolution, some people will lose their jobs. Now, if we are to analyze the impact of people losing a job, more likely we'll have more serious negative impact in terms of tax collection, in terms of disposable income to the families, in terms of spending so that you increase aggregate demand. But what we are saying is to increase efficiency, then there are things you must do. Because as Honorable Sosiano is saying, in a situation where you have one role, for example, the role of funding university education, being done by 3 parastatals, and at the end of the day it's just funding university education, then you must ask yourselves, are we really getting value for money by having 3 institutions doing this one function? And if the answer is no, if you're not getting value for money, it means then if we are to merge them to become only one, more automatically we'll be saving money. So the question is, the money we are saving as a result of merging these 3 parastatals, is it money then you would say can easily accommodate the loss in terms of job loss, the loss in terms of the functions that were being done by these 2 which have been merged, the laws in terms of some board members and CEOs, because they're already in post, being now declared redundant. And if we do that, then we can say in total, by doing the move the cabinet has done, I'm imagining at some point, either Treasury or somebody else will be able to say, by merging parastatals or through that dissolution, the country has saved this kind of money in terms of resources, so that these resources could then easily be used for other productive activities. The other important thing is they could say the people who are going to lose their jobs from the parastatals, then can we think of a way of then maybe observing them in the main public service stream, so that in that case they don't really lose their jobs, but it's a matter of transfer of services from a parastatal to the public service. And by all standards, when you look at the public service currently, we have been having this challenge where we have the top, which is old people, and you have very young people at the entry level. In the middle level, there has always been serious gaps. So maybe this now provides the government the chance to push this, because they are already public servants, to push them from parastatals to the mainstream. But the question, and I think this is now the difficult question, I'm sure cabinet must have been advised through this.
Yes.
You find most people working in parastatals, in terms of their pay rates, the pay scale, their pay scale is always higher than the mainstream public service. So more likely you find if you are to transfer them with the same pay scale, then automatically they'll be very high also. They'll go to the top again, and still the middle will not be addressed. So these are the tough questions, but I imagine somebody must have sat, looked at all this process, so that at the end of the day, whatever is going to be done is for the benefit of the country, but at the same time taking care of people who might lose their jobs, and people then, instead of worsening the situation, so that we have what I call a delicate balancing in terms of merging, but at the same time ensure that they don't disadvantage a lot of people as a result of that.
Mheshimiwa, okay, as you add on that, you have also to agree that this also, in a way, eases the fiscal burden on government in terms of the funds allocated to these parastatals.
Well, in terms of government wastage and misuse of money from the exchequer, I think it's real. There's a lot of wastage, and is directed. You are directing to 3 parastatals who will still do the same thing. I want us to understand what we call merging. Merging is you don't walk in and lay off workers. That is not the idea. There are always structural processes that are guided by law, including the safety of workers. And of course, if you look at the workforce and the work role, the role of workers, the top tier workers and the bottom tier workers. And in most of these, those who get affected are always the top tier, because we cannot have 2 MDs. So 1 MD must go off. But the lower cadre workers are not affected. And those are the most vulnerable in this case. The rest are could be privileged or board members. So the number of board members would reduce. So I think in terms of decisions, it's decisions that must be taken. Because the architecture in which, as Makali Bunle has explained, the architecture in which these parastatals were established, when you look at it even in terms of wastage, in terms of earnings by the top tier, it's completely moral. And you wonder why do you create 3-4 parastatals that are doing almost similar work? Why can't you match them? And then you coordinate better from a central point, and without necessarily majority of the workers within the institutions losing their jobs. So I think, according to me, it's a prudent thing to make. You see, the problem with Kenya sometimes is that in management, we take a lot of time in making good proposals, but we don't take the bold step to implement. Let us implement and deal with the consequences that arise from the implementation, while at the same time securing the jobs of the most vulnerable within the parastatals. I'm sure that is what has been considered.
Yes.
Because, of course, you know, the Attorney General sits in the cabinet and is able to advise on the legal implications, the job losses, the compensations, and all that. So we don't need to worry very much. Let us worry about the post-matcha, the efficiency that will result in, and of course, we are a deficit economy. That's a fact, for example, until we successfully take off various aspects of production, and we have an economy that is able to incubate production programs within itself, we will not yet be out of the woods. So we cannot have the luxury of also engaging in further wastage and creating so many institutions of duplication. It was a bad idea from the beginning. Brian, it was wrong approach to governance.
Do you agree with
Let us have our governance
I want
right.
to know, at what point did we now wake up and realize that these chosen parastatals, there's some redundancy? We just woke up. This is like they fell from heaven. We planned this thing and we put them. Let us call this thing as it is. As long as you hear IMF, World Bank, this is an austerity measure. Let's stop hiding behind things. This is an austerity measure. So my friends here, for lack of a better word, are lying, telling us that somehow this austerity measure will lead to the preservation of jobs. While austerity measures, you understand the nature of austerity measures is that the government needs to reduce its spending.
Actually, the Union of Kenya Civil Servants Secretary General Tom Odege responded by saying, be mindful of the job cuts and caution against...
This anytime you hear IMF, you understand this. Call it by another name. But if it smells like a rose, it looks like a rose, it is a rose. This is an austerity measure. So as long as it's an austerity measure, we cannot purport or pretend that it's not, that is streamlining. No, what are they streamlining? For all these years, they were not... No. Let's be sincere with our people. Let's be sincere with the facts on the ground. This is an austerity measure, and people are going to lose their jobs. I am against it 110%. All these reasons they're giving are neither here or there. You see, Bwana Sossion is telling us that that are affected, but the watu wa mkono, they don't get affected. What is that now? How can you even prove that?
How can you disapprove?
You know, let's be serious.
Be also serious with your reasoning.
All right, we are going to let's take a breather.
Don't criticize for the sake of criticize with facts.
Let's take a breather and come back and continue with the Viewpoint. This is KBC Channel 1. Good morning.
Nick knows something, and he has been hiding from me.
Hello, Nick. Hey, relax. I need to talk to you urgently.
That must be a very important phone call.
What clues or evidence does he have?
We need to find a way, otherwise we will all be in trouble.
There is nothing that incriminates anyone. What took you so long?
Hi, Ruth. Hi. There's something you left behind? I'm feeling like I'm being watched. You agreed to meet Miss Ruth in Laguna this evening.
When did I agree to that? Does she know you sent Blackie to me?
No. She can never know that.
Friday night again. Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we have to do it twice.
Jumamosi hii kwenye Mkulima tutakuza miche kwenye kijumba.
Tunataka kuencourage youth wapende agriculture. Najua hapo kitambo watu walikuwa wanasema yule mtu anafanya agriculture ni yule hajasoma.
Kisha tuongeze dhamana matunda yaliyoadimika. Usikose kujumuika nami siku ya Jumamosi saa 10:30 upate uhondo kamili.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. This is The Viewpoint. We continue with what is making headlines in our local dailies. And the same story that is captured on the Daily Nation is the same that is captured on the front page of The Star. 16 parastatals axed in Ruto austerity plan. Cabinet approves the merger of 42 parastatals into 20 to boost of efficiency. Let me say we are also joined by Wakili George Kithi, who is an advocate of the High Court. And welcome to the program, sir. And I also want to get your sentiments on these two headlines. Ruto state jobs shocker and 16 parastatals axed in Ruto's austerity measures. What is your take on that? And in terms of job losses, how is that going to pan out?
Thank you. My take would be that I think it's more about the style of leadership of the CEO of the country. I've watched at President Ruto more in comparative analysis with former President Mwai Kibaki. President William Ruto is a centralist. He's a centralist because he centralizes power to a pool where he has more control. Whereas President Kibaki decentralized lots of those powers. Whereas the Constitution today decentralized lots of the powers to units, devolved units, commissions, and other structures created within law, President Ruto's basically definitively, in the sum total of his leadership, centralized everything because he exerts more control compared to other presidents, especially if we look at Mwai Kibaki. And he seems to have a grip, or wants to have a grip of every affair of the country. And therefore he directs what to do, where and when. So he participates in lots of decision making, all the decisions making, and is very directional in on where the country goes. That's why you realize he has a very closer interaction with the decisions of the country. He has lots of interaction with the people. In the process of friction, he therefore has the fight at the doorsteps of the people of Kenya, and whoever it is, he will have the friction at a personal level. And there's no level of gap where he can interfere from probably a distance, so that it is his officers or certain officialdom that has participated in that decision-making. Whereas you would see Waziri Michuki, you will see many other ministers making decisions for and on behalf of the country, but seem to drive policy during the regime of Mwai Kibaki. A centralist, therefore, has one folly, being that every mistake that is made, he undertakes greater responsibility in the eyes of the public. Whereas a decentralized leader in any organization will have the liberty to communicate, change, reason within the context of anything that is taken that has a mistake. When you're a centralist, you therefore implement policy within the context of what you're thinking and what you're beholden to. Now, the control here, probably the subject of the control is to take up decisions that others, if given permission, will have done it differently. For instance, Mwai Kibaki had a good government in terms of the economics of it, yet did not merge these parastatals. Uhuru Kenyatta largely had friction with the public, but it was on other things other than probably the extent of the decibels we hear today with the current president. Now, this decision is not necessarily the solution for Kenyan problems. It's definitely not. It is a decision that saves a small percentage by way of theorizing it to probably austerically reduce government expenditures here and there. It is not even multiplying anything. It's simply reducing expenses, or meant to reduce expenses. That is very good. But obviously, if you're making more, and you can ignore the little expense that is expendable on account of the structure now, then you don't have to reduce anything. It means, therefore, you're not making much more to cover that. So if it's an expense that you are doing away with, it means you are not making much money to be able to sustain that expense. In effect, therefore, it means you're not doing well. So when we come to government and start cutting government expenditure, ordinarily we look at trips, we look at tea, we look at small things that can be expended. But when we come to reducing government, on account of parastatals, for instance, that are functional, have been functional, but we say that is collapsing them for austerity, I think it's because we do not make as much money as we used to, because then when we were making the money, we were sustaining them, but now we can't sustain them. Are these parastatals important? Yes, they are. I will tell you they are, because I've served in some of them, all right? And when we were there, they brought development and milestones to the community. Some of them are very close to the community. And you see, the government up there is very large in terms of how it's organized. But the little fiefdoms that are created in order to have a specialized meaning to certain sectors, for instance, fishing, which I believe affects people from the coast more and people from the lake region. Issues like tourism, that's sectorial. You can't put tourism in a pool with other development sectors in the country on account of the fact that it has its own issues. You wouldn't discuss tourism, for instance, in Malindi, which is dead today, and Lamu, in the context of development or the general development of the country. It is sectorial. And therefore, you have to have a unit dedicated to such. And that's how it is in government. For instance, we will have water, we will have land, we will have the air. Those will have very different authorities to be able to manage them. I think collapsing this may be a good thing, but generally and economically, it doesn't make much sense. It's probably the centralist approach to things.
Honorable Makali, do you agree with what Wakili has said, a centralist approach to this? And does it solve Kenyan problems?
I think his analysis in terms of the leadership we have been centralist, that's what I agree. But there are some statements he has made which I don't agree. And basically it's because when you look at the parastatals, it's important we realize that we have about 3 categories of parastatals. There are parastatals which are actually supposed to be investing to make money for government. There are parastatals which are regulatory, to make sure that the economy is regulated, like the insurance authority, things like KRA, things like pension, the retirement authority. Those are regulatory to make sure that things work as expected. And there are parastatals which serve social and cultural issues. Now, the ones for social and cultural and the ones for regulatory do not make money. So it is the work of the exchequer to fund them, because the functions they are doing for this country are important functions. So what we are saying, when you look at parastatals which are supposed to be making money for this country, so that at the end of the day, they are supposed to be giving dividends to the government, because there is an investment entity. Those are the ones we are saying, we have analyzed them, and from where I sit, because I'm a budget expert, I can tell you for sure, some parastatals are not helping this country in terms of adding value. And time has come, whether IMF is there or not there, for them to disappear from the face. Because they have become an agent of draining resources from the exchequer. Better things can help them. To me earlier, the issue is not people losing job. The issue is how do you manage the process? We must manage the process in a way that you manage the 3 things I mentioned. One of them, job loss, so that even as you merge, dissolve, or do whatever you want to do with them, people don't lose the jobs. The second one I talked about marginalization.
Yes.
When you look at this country, there are some parastatals which are specifically created or to serve some very disadvantaged areas of this country. And then if you just dissolve them, it means then automatically you are likely to continue marginalizing those areas. That's why I said, even as you dissolve, factor in make sure that you don't marginalize Kenyans further by killing these parastatals. And the third one, I said a situation whereby our normal politics, day-to-day politics, we have been in this country, where people start saying, tumeonewa, watu wetu wamefutwa, watu wetu. So, these stories are there.
Yes.
So that if you manage the process well, at the end of the day, we should be having a positive move for the country, not negative. But where we are now, and where I sit as a person who has looks at all their budgets, because parastatals we normally give them what we call one-line item budget. You just give them about you can say 500 million, which is not itemized budget. So you see, unlike other budgets which are normally itemized that you can see where the money is going, their budget is just one line. And that's what we are saying. When you look at it in detail, you realize we're actually pumping much more money to parastatals than we are getting back as a country from them. More so, the ones which are investing.
I can see you want to add something.
I think I want to weigh in on the leadership style that our Learned Council has stated. Of course, there are different styles of leadership. Yeah. Those who concentrate power, those who delegate power, that's a style of leadership. But I think a better description of President William Ruto is that he's able to make bold decisions. And those bold decisions are not friendly to those who have other interest within the ecosystem. This is Kenya, and we know that. And some of the bold decisions that other administrations fail to do so and must be taken, President William Ruto has done it. Look at, for example, the agriculture sector. Very bold to subsidize farmers to the extent that now fertilizers and other farm inputs, there is a good projection of good support for farmers, and farmers are able to work. And look at it for the first time. Look at the sugar industry. How did sugar industry collapse in this country? And lawyers know here, you protect these funny business cartels because that is business and they're protected. Someone who has never seen even sugarcane or grown sugarcane is supplying sugar to the Kenyan market and undermining the farmers. During Moi regime, we saw the sugar importation. That was deliberate to kill the local farmers. During Kibaki regime, it continued. It was never stopped. During Uru's regime, it continued. But in 2 years, we are now seeing sugarcane farmers reaping huge benefits, yield doubling because of fertilizers, incentives, and other things. The factories are beginning to work. We are producing more sugar locally, and we are not importing anymore. And the Ministry of Agriculture cancelled importation licenses for sugar. That is a bold decision, because you must tell these cartels to ship out. And it's time we tell cartels to ship out. And those who are protecting cartels must also be told to go slow so that you change the country. That is a bold decision of the president. And there are more intervention measures within that sector that will still come up. Look at housing. It remains still a very controversial thing, but let me tell you, turning around the human settlement in this country and repackaging it so that we move towards availing decent housing for all Kenyans and having a more organized settlement system is a key thing. Number three, I'm just citing a few things. UHC. How many countries have tried UHC? Ghana tried and it flopped because it over-relied on the business of the World Bank. But what we are doing here in Kenya is very monumental, and it will require resources. Those resources will come from the citizens. And we cannot have parastatals that are lying on money. You've heard how budgeting is done. You're given consolidated money, non-itemized money, and that money is just pocket money for people. And those are taxpayers' money. Okay. That money should be saved and directed towards critical services like healthcare and education. All right. I can go on and on the bold decision that the president has done. Okay. They may not be very friendly, but the benefits will fall in place and it will benefit the citizens of this
Brian,
country.
what's the leadership style?
You see...
Okay, I'll come to you. Let him respond to that. And as you answer that,
yes.
How should this be approached?
First and foremost, I'd like to address what Bonakiti said. Ruto's style of difference of ruling, of governing is that of centralizing. That's his style. That I have nothing to pick with. But we are speaking about these parastatals as if the people employed there are from Taiwan. These are Kenyans. Behind every title is a Kenyan with a family, with a family to look after. The skills that are going to be lost. And you're saying you want to save money. For who, if not for the Kenyans? You say you want to invest that money for the government. Now, the best investment is the people of the country. Am I lying?
I don't know that you are listening.
What do you mean you don't know whether
Because
I'm
I
listening?
said you can also have these employees joining the mainstream public
What
service.
you said, because I was
That is
noting it
alternative
down.
employment
What
for
you
them.
said is and what I noted it down is that some parastatals do not serve as a good option for investment for the government, for the exchequer.
Yes.
Now, the best investment for the exchequer, my argument is that is the people, the citizenry itself. That is the number one investment. That is the best. That's what I'm differing with you.
So
when it comes to Bwana Sosion, most politicians, most people in the government, they like to bring out the boogeyman who's the cartel. And they talk about these cartels so boldly as if they know them. And if the cartels were real and they know them, then arrest them. You can't now be cowing and cowing people to doing your will because now cartels, we have to fight these cartels. It's like, you remember when we were kids? Kula manite undertaker. You understand? We need to be sincere. We need to be
like one of them.
Thank you very much, sir. We need to be very sincere. We need to be very sincere. So the effects are wide and far-reaching. And what is happening is that the exchequer, who's the government of the day today, is getting pressure from IMF.
So my question to you was, how, from your perspective, should this be approached?
Well, we need to be more bold when dealing with the IMF. And when it comes to future generation and future leaderships, we need to understand and see the type of deals we make with these lenders. Up until recently, when we were having a scandal for Adani Airport, not many people knew these deals that were going on. But I believe, first and foremost, the people who made the deals with our lenders did very bad deals. If what has happened recently is anything to go by, first of all, that's the best way to approach it, is to make sure we have sober-minded individuals who will be there, like myself, who I am willing to volunteer, to make sure we have good deals.
Okay, be that as it may, Wakili, you wanted to contribute to that.
I actually don't agree with Mr. Sosion and my good friend here. Of course, respectfully. Mr. Sosion says, if I heard him right, that you see, President is a centralist. He agrees. He agrees.
No, I don't agree. It's not.
Well, you said you had nothing to comment on that. You didn't comment anyway. Number two, then he says he is bold. You know, you can be bold to suppress people. You can be bold to oppress people. That is also bold. You can also be bold to be friendly to people. But he says, I mean, the government is being unfriendly in the decisions making to its people. You have a duty to be friendly, especially in economics. The other issue is, it is not true that sugar was not imported during this regime. It was. That's why we had a problem with Waziri of Agriculture the other day, and he went. In fact, he was the most unpopular president. Waziri. The third issue, which is important to note, is that, and basically it combines with what my good friend has said, government is not in the business of trading. Government should not trade with the people. You're supposed to facilitate an environment enabling trade to thrive. But you can't say we are closing this parastatal because it doesn't bring money to government. No. You are supposed to facilitate trade. Trade is for private sector. But at the inception, if you want, for instance, to activate a certain sector of the economy, you can start off banks, you can start off tourism institution. This government at independence, but they had hotels. It used to run hotels, the Pullmans of this world, Mombasa Beach, all that. Those were for government. And then you divest from that when the industry picks up. And therefore, you cannot say that government, you collapse because there's no money. That's not right. Then remember that government is to provide services. These services are sectoral. For instance, and for me, I still don't see the sense because I've not been explained.
So there's a direct impact on the way service delivery will
But of course, however,
done.
I don't think I haven't really got the explanation as to why one would say these services are a loss. So let's collapse the parastatals or the institution that gives the services and put them into mainstream ministries. If you're going to remove those services, then it means there'll be no expense to it. But if the expense is particularized to a certain parastatal, but then those functions are moved to the ministry, and then the functions are still going to be, the services are still going to be provided by government. There's nothing you've done, because basically you are still expensing the same service to the people. So what have you done? It's just in the name. Really, what's in a name? Because if it's cultural, if it's film, the film industry, for instance, if it's not working, then make it work. But if in the film industry and you have a state corporation or on matters film or other matters, you transfer that function to the ministry, it is discharged by the ministry, people are going to discharge it, expenses, there'll be cars, there'll be probably an infrastructure to provide the service. What have you done? Really nothing. Because one is that there's a parastatal or a section of government that is specialized, and the other one is general within the ministry. But really, you're expensing an expense for purpose of the exchequer. And therefore, the derivative effect is that there isn't much you have done. I have asked a question that has not been answered. Is it a solution to the problems of the economic situation of the country? And nobody has answered that, because we should be looking for solutions. Is that a solution? It is not. And obviously, if you say we are collapsing, and that's what they've said, that's what was decided. If you are collapsing parastatal for purpose of transferring the functions for austerity measures to mainstream government, really, you are not convincing us. And I want to repeat, if you're bold, be bold to be friendly to the people, and don't be bold to be unfriendly to the people.
There are other ways.
You know, yes. You know, it's also good to be informed. And I think really, one of the things I see with my colleagues is the level of information, which is a bit wanting. Because the thing is, as I said earlier, and I want to repeat, in terms of parastatals, there is no parastatal in this country, which what it does in terms of function is not being done by a ministry. So you find that's why most of them are under a PS and a minister, which means whatever they do is just being provided with a platform to do it more in a specialized area, because it's now standalone. And the problem we have, and which is being addressed, and at times I do things kind of saying, let's not mix everything politics in it. If you look at the parastatals, there are some which are duplicating roles and functions. And I think earlier you had mentioned, for example, the university funding. You have about 2 of them doing that.
The university fund.
If you look at the tourism, there are about 3 doing the same function. So what we're asking is, and that's why I'm saying it's important we be real as we debate here. In a situation by merging them, you don't lose the functions being done. Do you justify merging? That's the question. And that's what we were saying earlier, that if you merge the 3, you still achieve the same outcomes. Because what is key is outcomes. Now, once you achieve the same outcomes...
We are addressing losses that parastatals are making.
Let him make his point. I'll come to you. Let him make his point.
Allow me to make my point.
I'll come to you.
So the thing is, the reason why you create a body, at the end of the day, you have very clear expected outcomes. Now, if the outcomes, if you list the outcomes, 1 to 5, and you have 5 people doing the same, and you realize that this can be done by 1 person and achieve the same outcomes, automatically you can do with 1 person. So that's what we are saying. As you manage these parastatals, can we then manage the process in a way that people don't lose their jobs and the things I said? The other important point, which I said earlier, is that the reason why these parastatals have been dissolved or merged is to improve efficiency. In any area where you improve efficiency, it means you improve the outcomes. Because inefficiencies don't give you the best outcomes. So where you are saying we have inefficiencies in some parastatals, and this has been confirmed through research, what we call evidence-informed research.
Abrupt dissolution is not addressing the efficiency.
What you need to care about is, if I dissolve this parastatal, I don't lose anything in terms of outcomes. In that case, what do I do with the employees who are there? And then if you have alternative for the employees, that is not managing the process. Now, the issue which Susan was talking about, I want to come to that. The issue of importation, for me, is basically a very simple thing. If you look at the principle of comparative advantage, you could be better as a country to import sugar than grow sugar in Kenya, if you analyze the cost of production. So we need to ask ourselves, even as we claim that we are now producing sugar in Kenya and we are not importing, at what cost? Because you go to our neighbors here, Southern Sudan and the Sudan itself, sugar would be produced at a very low cost to an extent that even if you imported, you get cheaper sugar in Kenya without anything happening. What is happening is, because of corruption, We bought sugar cheaply. We factor in corruption in. By the time it gets here, it's more expensive than Numia sugar. Can you do away with the corruption and then you get cheaper sugar, either from Sudan or Brazil, so that we enjoy competitive advantage in terms of production?
Okay.
Instead of collapsing,
then I come to Brian.
Let me respond.
Yes.
You know, he's mentioning a few parastatals. What he has not given is the derivative factor that informs the collapsing of those parastatals. Cost Development Authority, what does it do? He doesn't know. What is the derivative effect? He won't say. And why is it being collapsed? He won't say. Why in the first place was it established? He won't say. Cost Development Authority, I serve there. I know what it does. There are things that it does which the government won't do. For instance, when you create Cost Development Authority, you attract more funding from funding institutions for specific purposes where then the negotiation is at the local level. When you put it to the ministry, and I want to correct that, it is not true that if you collapse Cost Development Authority and take it to the ministry of regional development or whatever ministry it is, then it means you can still discharge the same function that Cost Development Authority is discharged, because the offices, the Office of Cost Development Authority are at the cost. The interactive processes of Cost Development Authority in the specialized function, in terms of buying boats for the fishermen, in terms of putting coolers for the fishermen, in terms of all that, will not be done by the ministry. We know the problem, and what we call it in law is you cannot approbate and reprobate. You cannot take by one hand.
Okay, I want to cut you short. Yes. We take a short break. You'll finish on that, then I'll come to you both. Let's take a short break. And
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have by regular checkup. People don't know they have hypertension. They don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I'll take a look so I can be relieved.
No need. I confirmed it. She's back. Let's go.
I still need to talk to her. What is she up to?
Why did Director Xue agree to take on my project? I'm sorry, Mr. Zhang. Yesterday, due to a personal matter, the shooting was delayed. I'll make up for it and ensure to stick to the schedule.
You heartless guy. You left me alone yesterday, and I had to listen to Chief singing old classics all night.
To argue again? My lady, you're already a married couple. Why do you two still compete with each other?
Jumamosi hii kwenye Mkulima tutakuza miche kwenye kijumba.
Tunataka kuencourage youth wapende agriculture. Unajua hapo kitambo watu walikuwa wanasema yule mtu anafanya agriculture ni yule hajasoma.
Kisha tuongeze dhamana matunda yaliyoadimika. Usikose kujumuika nami siku ya Jumamosi saa 10:30 upate uhondo kamili.
Welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. You're watching The Viewpoint, and the debate here is getting heated. And before we enter on a break, you're making a point. I want to take a minute and finish on that so that he can respond, and then we go to Mr. Sosion.
Just 2 issues.
Yes.
The principle of governance is that you can't approbate and reprobate, meaning you can't take and then give and pretend that you are creating an equilibrium or a balance of sorts. Obviously, there are repercussions, and those repercussions are not what we've been explained. One is labor, and two is the development traction that we've had. When we were off air, I was trying to tell my good friend here, even with its own problems, what Coast Development Authority has been able to do to the people of the coast. But he differs and says the theorizing of research is that it is useless. I mean, it is not useless. It has worked for the people, and people have been employed there, and the implication for all the projects that have been done. There's much I can explain to him the projects that are ongoing, and specifically because there's a direction and a specialized unit of a parastatal that has put into place. The second issue is the tragedy of commons. Tragedy of commons in law means that which belongs to all belongs to none. Because it belongs in government, there's wanton expendable resources on account of officialdom and decision making. When you are in officialdom, you take that which belongs to all, meaning government property, as you know, with nonchalance. Whereas if it is yours, you administer on it because it is personal. And we see all this decision making because we are told Parliament has discussed it. We are told Cabinet has discussed it. Those are not the best brains, definitely. Number two is decision making by those people at the highest level obviously have also been checked to be wrong many a times. Obviously, that's where we are, because we have this economy. We have the economy where it is because of decision making of such people. And then the fact that the cabinet has said parastatal must be dissolved doesn't mean it is right. And by the way, I do know that we will be in court very soon. I know that for a fact. All right. To check on this. And these excesses were, for instance, if a parastatal was put into place, like my good friend has said here, for purposes of addressing marginalization, has marginalization therefore ceased, like at the coast? Has marginalization therefore ceased such that you do not want to enhance development in the measure and in the facet of Coast Development Authority as was then? So my take would be this. Of course, there's no wrong and right answer here, because you see the differing opinions could be opinions to the extent of where people have been brought up, where they've lived, where their bread is buttered. But the point remains that I think at all circumstances, a decision like this has some effect on certain people and certain sectors.
All right, respond.
First of all, I want to thank Bonakithi for waxing lyrical. Of course, he's an advocate. You know, they have a knack for words. I do not disagree with much of what you've said, but to recapitulate, if the government wants to address loss in parastatals, they should focus on reforms, not abrupt dissolutions. There are a number of things that can be done instead of just abruptly dissolving a parastatal. We can start with performance audits. Identify what is the problem. Where is it coming from? What is the cause of these losses? We can go to number 2, restructuring. Replace those ineffective leadership and those ineffective workers with effective people. We can also go to revenue diversification, adapt business models to generate more income. There's a whole lot of things we can do before just abruptly dissolving a parastatal. And that is why I'm perplexed by all this. Have we tried these other things before really dissolving these parastatals? And you're dissolving them abruptly. That's why I'm calling them abruptly, because you haven't tried anything else. That seems to be something that everybody is avoiding. We can try, for example, I was giving an example to my friend Bonakithi here. If you have your vehicle and it has problems, do you throw it away? You fix that vehicle. Now we have a parastatal that is bringing in losses. Find the root causes of those losses and fix them.
All right. You wanted to respond
you
to
know,
this.
It's very important that we are armed with facts. You know, when you're not armed with facts and data, you can't argue right. And the issue of parastatals merging, it did not originate from the mind of the president. I would like to dispel that. It is a matter that has been discussed in government widely, and not today, but for a long time. Makali Muli can confirm It has been discussed in Parliament several, and the law has been passed for the same. And the president signed it into law. Everyone was quiet about it. And I urge my colleagues and any Kenyan, it is important you do research first, try to get to know what has been done, the processes which were followed, because a lot of technical analysis were carried out. Even the job losses also were analyzed, and protection of jobs were also taken into consideration. That is, if we go into that space. And let us not just talk for the sake of talking. Let's look at, for example, what is being merged. I'm giving example. Yeah. Tourism Promotion Fund and Tourism Fund. Yes. Tourism Promotion Fund and Tourism Fund. What is the difference? The second example, Commission for University Education being merged with Technical and Vocational Education and Training Authority and being merged with Kenya National Qualifications Authority. They do more or less the same thing. Why do you have different parastotals? The other third example is Kenya Rural Roads Authority and Kenya Urban Roads Authority. It is all roads. They are being merged as well. And you know, these are technical analyses that have been undertaken, institution by institution, parastatal by parastatal. And by the time they're lumped together, there is always technical data that enables it, and that is so compelling for such an action to be taken. The Water Service Regulatory Board, Water Regulatory Authority. I want you to listen to that. Water Service Regulatory Board, Water Regulatory Authority. Regional Center on Groundwater Resources Education, Training and Research. Now, when all those are being lumped, you can see the genetic coding of these parastatals are one and the same. And lumping them together for purposes of government efficiency is important. And we are not beginning to debate it in this show. It has been debated in Parliament. A lot of work has gone into it. Okay. We cannot bastardize it since you are not informed and you are not in that space that you come in now too late in the day and you put in your mind without even studying and understanding. It has got nothing to do with leadership of the president. Cabinet has a duty to carry out due execution of papers, memos that are submitted to them by line ministries. And cabinet is chaired by the president, and these decisions are taken. So it doesn't have to look like, oh, let us hang it on the president and do a very simple thing of, oh, job losses. I come from the background of labor, and I know what it means for job losses. And I know what is done to codify and protect the rights of workers in case of such a transition. That's a simple business. And in fact, my learned friend here should be telling me what the lawyers are doing to protect and ensure the safety of the workers in these entities.
Of course, we'll go to court. Of course, we'll go to court.
All right. Yes,
so these are facts. So I don't think...
I think everybody has made enough
And very brief one. The other one, which is important, the people must also note, is the issue of conflict between what some of these parastatals are doing and what the county governments are doing. Because, you know, government, some of the functions are devolved. So you find some parastatals actually carrying out functions.
Let the government address the losses.
So these are some of the conflicts.
Let the government address the losses that are being made by those parastatals.
All right, let's close in on that matter and move on to another.
Can I close it? Can I
30
close
seconds,
it?
please.
Yes.
30 seconds.
I think what Mr. Sonia has said is right. Let me give him credit. He's right when he talks of collapsing. I participated in the drafting of the Tourism Act, by the way. And we had that debate as to tourism fund and tourism levy. So he's right. We insisted at the drafting level that there should be a merger of those two functions. It wasn't now, apparently it has come to time. So collapsing them and merging them is okay. What he has addressed and what my good friend has not addressed completely is when you say, let's do away with these parastatals. I mean, that's the third tier, of course, of what the reforms that are being made in parastatals. They have shied away from addressing that issue because it doesn't make sense.
Okay. Let's close that matter at that point. Now, the Standard, the story that is addressed on the Standard is chaos unleashed. As Americans celebrated the inauguration of their 47th president, the world was left in shock and is yet to recover after Donald Trump issued 26 executive orders, 12 memoranda and 4 proclamations that will drastically change the lives and upset the world order. That story is told on page 3 to throughout to page 7 of the Standard. Some of the executive orders include Trump directs U.S. withdrawal from Paris Climate Agreement, a move that will see with serious environmental consequences, and also signed an executive order to withdraw the U.S. from the World Health Organization. Let me start with you, Brian.
Yes.
What do you make of this, and how is this going to affect the move from the U.S. move from the World Health Organization? How is that going to shape the recent?
It's a good thing that is happening to African countries, because we have this mentality that we are to be helped. That's the mentality that Africa leaders always have. We have to be helped. Now the training wheels are off. We'll learn to ride on our own. It will be hard at first, but at least it's going to lead to a good ending. The United States is a sovereign state. It is a sovereign state. It can do with its money what it pleases. And if it chooses to put itself first, then in all soberness of mind and in all wisdom, unless then now I am a beggar, I cannot start feeling bad for that. It is a good thing. It is a step in the right direction for us African countries. Yes.
Mheshimiwa Sosion, the move to remove the U.S. from the World Health Organization, how does it augur, especially for countries like Kenya?
First of all, what are the justifications? I saw arguments of Trump that the U.S. is putting $5 billion, and the population of the U.S. is 300 million, while China is putting $500 million, and the population of China is 1.5 billion. And he said this is imbalance, it's unfair. I think the argument of Trump is that there should be equitable support to the World Health Organization, and that there is then need for the U.S. to discontinue funding the World Health Organization. It cannot only be the burden of the U.S. Other equal economies should also be able to do so. I think if you follow what the philosophy of Trump politics is, that America becomes the priority. And that means his administration will reduce involvement in activities on the world stage and focus on the interest of the Americans. If you looked at it, he said, we are going to tax outsiders and lessen the burden of taxes of the Americans. That means they are going to make money out there. So really, these are radical shift. And if you look at what is pronouncing, is very well supported by many Americans. So I don't know the equilibrium where it will eventually settle and the effects it will have in the global geopolitical and economic space. Definitely many programs that have relied on the funding of the U.S. government will get affected in the security, in the economy, in the health sector. Definitely, yes. I am not sure how the dollar, the strength of the dollar vis-a-vis our currencies will happen. We might have the power of the dollar going up against our other currencies. So really, the Trump presidency portends a lot of economic disruption and political disruption and programs disruptions globally. And the global community must prepare for it. And there's nothing you can do. That is a sovereign state, the United States of America.
Yes.
They can choose to get involved or not get involved. What is the lesson for Africa? There's been a big agenda of strengthening intra-Africa trade and political unity within the continent and removing barriers of movement of people and expanding our own market We can trade within ourselves and do very well. So then this is not an item that a single country like Kenya or a single country like, we must think now regionally. Why do we have boundaries in Africa and visas and restrictions of movement? I think it is time we get rid of this, connect Africa through infrastructure, and we have a more federated continent politically, and probably think of our own single currency. We have our own resources. Let's think about Africa Vision 2063. If implemented, then it's a very good insurance against shocks of administrations like what you have seen, the one of Trump and other. We cannot over-rely on donations and funding from outside the continent. Are we able also, as a continent, to run our own health system and fund our own health programs and conduct our own research? We have our own scientists. Take, for example, Kenya in the livestock industry. We have never imported vaccine from outside Kenya. All our vaccine are developed by our own experts at Kenya Veterinary Kevevapi here in Kapete for our livestock. We have the knowledge, we have the capacity. We have to turn it around. We need revolutionary leadership that can package this data and organize the continent to be able to endure the shocks of certain shifts of what we are witnessing globally. And I think it is time for us to think hard and think outside outside the box and stop this type of local, small, little petty arguments and think big about humanity in this continent and the world. Because there is nothing we can do with America. Yes. They will do what they want.
In a statement,
and they have the power.
The World Health Organization also said they hope the US will reconsider their position on this and also engage in constructive dialogue. Is there a chance that should that space for dialogue be provided, that the US will walk back on this decision?
I think what we need to realize is when Trump was campaigning, his clarion call was "Make America Great Again."
Yeah.
And he did explain to Americans what it will take to make America great again by presenting his proposals. And it's on the basis of that the Americans voted for him. So he has the power of the people to do what he's doing. And to me, what we need to realize, the rest of the world, is that we have a new sheriff in town. So who is coming with these proposals which are supported by the Americans. So to me, the short of it is that people must adjust to the new administration because they will come up with their proposals which are full backing of the Americans because he was voted in as a president. The issue of WHO is a very sensitive matter because it touches on the health of everyone in the world. And the president has pronounced himself to what he intends to do, withdraw. I'm sure that must be informed by a number of, possibly they must have done their own research and found that this is not benefiting the Americans. Or the Americans are losing more by being a member than they are gaining. But I think, as you are saying, because we also have other powers in the world like China, UK, and all the rest, maybe through diplomacy, they could be able to talk to the new president and see that he can reconsider. Personally, I would push for reconsideration because the WHO does some things which cannot be done by another organization. For example, setting standards, the health standards in the world. Also, in case of emergencies like disease outbreak, the way they come in and make sure there is world order in that area is also very important. So I don't know whether by America being not there and being the superpower, whether it will then impact the way they will do their business. But if that is the case, there is need to reconsider. But all said and done, Americans have a new president who has his own manifesto to implement. I think it's time he also be allowed to enforce his manifesto. Yes.
Wakili, what do you think of this? And does it mean that henceforth anything that is social, to do with social aid, that is beneficial to the US is likely to be cut off?
Yes, definitely has been an impact. That's an administrative decision that he makes in the US, but obviously it has an impact globally. you'd say Trump's pursuit in terms of administration is towards anti-globalization. Because that which moves to unify the world as a unit, common purpose of humanity, so that then decisions are made for the human person. For instance, if you come to the Paris Convention, matters environment, environment belongs to all of us. Actually, pollution in an industrial country like China affects the whole world. And then, of course, the disorganization of the world in terms of world temperatures and world patterns, weather patterns and climate, obviously affects everyone. So we are at a globalized environment. However, you need to balance what you do to the global arena and also locally. When it means you sacrifice more for the greater good of the globe, I don't think that's justified. When you sacrifice for the greater good of the globe so that then eventually the net effect is that it comes back to you, that's good. But in the short term, I think you must locally address the issues that you want. And those decisions have to be made in one way or another if it means giving your people better life. We are collapsing parastatals here. He's collapsing funding to the global scene. And those are decisions that are local and informed by the environment that we package ourselves in. However, and most importantly, I don't think these decisions should be looked at in that prism alone. What US as a policy has been accusing WHO is that it was China-centric. Meaning, therefore, especially during the COVID pandemic, most of the issues that was accusing of China, because they wanted WHO, of course, to accuse China that it was the source of the virus and all that. And of course, China was disputing that. But that was, in fact, at a point, it was seen to be a biological warfare of some sort. But I think there are grievances that need to be addressed to the US in as far as WHO is concerned in the interactive global environment for purpose of placating it to continue, because you can't force US, right? You need then to address the issues that US has, because why is Trump pulling out? Yes, he wants to address issues at the local scene, but those issues are already being addressed through and through. It doesn't mean that US collapses because it is funding WHO. It's because there are issues that need to be addressed. So I do think there is space for dialogue. And probably what Trump is doing is then pulling a card so that then WHO can sit on the table, which is willing, as we speak, to be able to address issues of China centrism as opposed to American centrism. And of course, that is also in the packaging that America comes first. The other issue will be the effect, net effect on Africa. You know what? Africa will be affected either way. There's nothing good that can be done up there that won't affect you negatively. A lot of WHO, of course, has done a lot of its research in terms of drugs and vaccines and whatever in Africa, because the environment in Africa, one, is good because it's not highly regulated. And about the ethical issues are lesser in Africa for purpose of testing vaccines and all that. Then natural resources are more available in Africa than in other places, and so on and so forth. But you realize also that Africa bears the brunt of the effects of WHO again, because, we have managed to eradicate certain diseases on account of efforts of WHO. Polio has been reduced and all that. Some of these vaccines, measles and stuff like that, obviously is the effort of WHO. But eventually, I do think that Africa, on a balance of the equilibrium, Africa needs WHO more than US does. Because basically what US is doing is not only funding.
What Africa needs is a change in thinking.
Okay, let me finish.
Yes, it's that US, now that US is funding the globe through WHO in matters of health, it means it can fund itself, right? So it means Africa, in the context of funding of US, is also get funded by US. So Africa needs US to fund, and WHO needs US to fund, and Africa basically needs to wake up, because there's AU, what has it done in terms of matters of health? It's still waiting for the same WHO to be able to be reorganized and organized. So I do think that it's a wake-up call. It should be a wake-up call for the country. It should be a wake-up for every country in Africa and for Africa, that we need to be on our own. So there's an element of African-centric decisions that have to be made, as opposed to relying on the general globe, because the general globe may care, but oftentimes may not care about Africa.
I concur with Bonakith. It is a global world we are living in. We are all interconnected. But it is high time we as Africans started to thoroughly solve our own problems. We are not deformed, or we are not weak in thinking. We have to change our thinking. We have to change and revolutionize our strategies, and we have to put our mindset in such a way whereby if foreign nations, foreign sovereign nations decide to pull out of institutions like World Health Organization, it does not cause a panic like the one I'm witnessing here with my friend. That is something we should take this as a learning lesson and never be in such a position again. And that has to happen, and it has to happen with shifts and radical thinking from the sweeper to the presidents to the leaders of this great continent. We have to stop thinking that we need to be helped. Africa right now reminds me of that broke relative, you understand, who really seems we always have to help them. Within the family setup, I don't know which family setups you come to, but it's most family setups, there's always somebody you always need to help. We have to get up from that position. And it's also about dignity. We have to yes, we're in the global platform, but what do they see us? Do you know how many representatives we have in the UN? We don't even have one African country in the permanent, permanent seats? We don't. So any major decision is being made for us. And for us to prove and show and prove ourselves, it has to start now. And this has to serve as a wake-up call so that we don't panic again in such situations. Africa needs to really wake up. Whatever we are going to go through right now, yes, it's going to be hard, but we're going to take it in stride, and we need to solve our own problems, put down the barriers, and come together as one and address the globe as one. Otherwise, we'll always be in this condition whereby now you are a child. If your parents divorce, you have a problem. We are just relying on the rest of the world. If you're not relying on America, then we are relying on China. If they're fighting, we have problems. That's not any way to live for any human being. It lacks dignity.
All right. There's something I need us to talk about, and it's about proposal by the new KRA chair, that is Nderitu Muriithi, scrapping the annual finance bill to enhance tax predictability for business, and instead advocates for multi-year tax policy for stability. Is this the right move, Bwana Gazia?
Well, it may be too early for us to comment, but we need to understand what it is, and you understand the reason why many Kenyans rose against the finance bill. Finance bill is basically a revenue collection strategic measure. We are running a budget of 4.3 trillion, and from the budget we could raise from the finance bill, we could raise 2.1 trillion. And the finance bill has been reviewed annually to enhance revenue collection. And it has not been very friendly, and probably that has affected the stability of businesses. And if KRA can come up with a more predictable and strategic measure that will still see collection of adequate revenue to finance the budget, and then that will be good. Yeah, if it works, then it is right. We cannot tie the hands of the chair once he's in office from developing the measures, revenue collection measures that work. All what is needed is revenue, adequate revenue to be collected. And for us to run an economy that we are not going to borrow, we have relied on borrowing. And the projection is that for us to finance our budget in the short term, we should be able to raise revenue up to 5 trillion. And to stretch our economy to be able to do that, a lot needs to be done. So thinking outside the box and what the chairman is proposing should be given serious attention so that if it works, then it is fine and Parliament will find it easier. If that can give assurance of collection of revenue to finance budgets, then so be it. So to me, we cannot block new ideas and we cannot rubbish the new ideas until it is proved to us that it works. This is, as a country, that is how we do things. And by the time that bills come up, it will go through public participation, it will go through Parliament, it will go through a problem or a process of technical analysis. So for me, I believe in a country that is free, that can raise its own revenue to finance its budget and program without over-relying on outsiders. And let us not forget, during Kibaki administration, and he told us, even as teachers, and that is how we agreed to support and vote for Kibaki. And this is one president who was voted when he was sick and almost unconscious, but was elected by the country because he had given us measures that would work. And he said, I'll see no loopholes of corruption in collection of revenue, and I'll collect enough revenue to finance our budget and to finance free education from primary 1 to 8 and to pay teachers pending salaries, which actually did. And the revenue collection measures that Kibaki instituted saw our budget financed domestically at 95%. And your friends, which my fellow has been talking about here, the World Bank, was surprised that we are not going to borrow, we are not borrowing their money because they wanted us to borrow their money. They're in business of interest, and that we are financing our budget at 95%. For us to really be free as a country, let's raise our own revenue, finance our budget, run our programs. And that is what the entire continent needs. We don't need to be externally dependent. So what carried us, because it is established by law to do that work and to collect revenue, if that can be done and we still ensure stability of businesses, then it's a good thing. And that's a good equilibrium that we can attain for an economy that works.
Okay, Honorable Makali, does it mean, let's say hypothetically, this in a way comes into fruition, does it mean that a government should be giving a 5-year kind of finance bill that matches its manifesto?
Okay, I think the most important question is what is the work of a finance bill? What it does, it enables the government to be able to finance the budget. So we do our budgets on an annual basis. Every year you come up with a budget. Then the finance bill determines where do you get the resources to finance your budget. So I think what the chairman is saying that if we had a finance bill which could be catering for about 2 to 3 years instead of annual, then it will help the country in terms of businesses can be able to predict what their taxation levels are going to be in terms of now as they factor in their costs and be more stable in terms of planning. But all said and done, that's a very good idea. But I think there are also areas which you need to consider, because if we are doing our budget on an annual basis and then we fix the finance bill for 2 or 3 years, then does it mean we also have a budget which takes care of 3 years? Because immediately you change the budget, then automatically you need to change the finance bill. Unless you are saying whatever excess will be coming from it, then we borrow. And we know the challenges of borrowing. Or we come up with the time of saying whatever extra resources are required, we could get them through A in A. That is a provision in aid. So to me, there are some basic questions to ask ourselves. But it's a very good idea from a business perspective, that when I'm doing my accounts, I can do my accounts and know that in the next 3 years, I'm not likely to change my account because of new tax requirements and all that. But practically, I think it could face some challenges. But it will be a very interesting national conversation for people who are in the finance and economics.
Yes. What do you think of that idea, and what could be the biggest challenge to implement this?
First, it is not wrong to suggest the longevity of budgeting cycle to be increased. and that's elasticity be tested further from 1 year to further time, for the reason that I think the problem we've had, to be honest, is Parliament. You know, prediction is what attracts economic investment. A DFI, direct foreign investor who comes to the country and wants to put up a plant, would want to basically to plan the incomes, the expenditures, vis-a-vis the profits that is going to make over a period of time. That gets interrupted at every cycle of 5 years on account of the budgetary process. Obviously, the executive will want to milk as much as possible. We know it. Nobody comes to government with his own money. So you want to collect as much as possible because you have a manifesto to complete and in a hurry, because after a 5-year cycle, look, you have to go back to elections. But then we have Parliament that's a checker for the people. It has been very disruptive in the model of budgeting as we've seen it, until people go to protest. Well, people went to protest because Parliament did its worst. You see, to protect the people, one of it is also to make the expectations in terms of the economic factors predictable. So when I plan today that I'm going to buy a car, so I'm going to pay these installments, and in 3 years, 5 years, I have finished. It's a matatu. But then you come and change the factors such that the interest rates go higher. If it is a payslip that I'm using for purposes of deploying resources to finance the installments, you disrupt it. So that where I had a balance of 8,000 in my payslip, it becomes 2,000 because we've depleted it to, say, fund some housing, some fund NSSF, fund this. You are abusing the liberty given to you because the inconsistency disrupts my planning in terms of the economy. We are where we are because Parliament honestly has failed us. I have said here, and I repeat, Parliament is the weakest link we have in this country.
Okay.
But let me say this. When you are predictable in terms of the longevity of the budget cycle, what you give is the stability in planning. Planning is everything for good economic stability. So planning is informed by the expectations of the disruptions within the expenditures that are official, because it's coercive. You see, taxing and payment of tax to government is coercive, because if you don't read the implications and repercussions, you can avoid by not doing that which will attract the taxation, and that's called tax avoidance. Because then if I have to buy a matatu, I'll pay fuel levy, I will do this, I'll do this. Of course, other unofficial taxes such as COPS will be there and so on and so forth. But the point is that if you give me a proper planning for the 5 years, I'll say for 3 years or 5 years, I will say within that period of time, my predictability is that my pay slip will remain with this amount, I'll be able to afford education for my children, and so on and so forth. That's municipal, that's local. Internationally also, we probably will have a better environment for purposes of allowing investors to plan much better than the disruptive environment that we always experience year in, year out. And who said every budget cycle we must disrupt the taxation process that we always add? I mean, that's the norm of Parliament. The thinking is for every budget cycle we keep on adding or disrupting the tax regimes. We actually can leave it static. We did it. Let me explain this lastly. We did it because the finance bill, or the finance bill rather, because it never became to law. The president returned it and he said he's going to sign it because of the protests. And it means, therefore, there was no intervening tax act that disrupted the former. Which means, therefore, it is possible for purposes of increasing the period of time within which we can have our tax cycle, so that there's stability and prediction.
I want you to give I want you to respond to this, and also in the interest of time, you give your closing remarks behind time.
Bwana Mark, thanks a lot. I'm going to call it as it is. Whatever the KRA is trying to do right now, whatever the government is trying to do right now, they're just trying to be cautious. Once bitten, twice shy. They saw what happened with the finance bill, so they're trying to have a different approach. But the best approach is for the government holistically to review how it collects the taxes. We spoke about Bwana Kibaki. Bwana Kibaki also took loans. You understand? And being a deficit economy does not allow you now to misuse how you're going to take taxes, because US has been a deficit economy since the 30s. You just have to get the loans, make sure you expand infrastructure and expand tax base. In that, expand the number of taxpayers. Do not increase the individual tax on people like what Bonakith is saying. So the government has to change its approach and how it collects its taxes.
All right. I'm told we are out of time, so I'll thank you. Adesola Makali Mulu, MP Kitui Central, and Honorable Sosion and Brian Oduo, a political analyst, and Wakili George Keith. This is where we end the Viewpoint. Here up next is the weather update.
Wanashiriki ndoto za usingizini tu.
Ala. Mambo muhimu kama hayo unaita upuzi. Hayo ni mambo ya kitoto.
Kitu kama kiko hakifichiki. Ama kweli waso haya wana mji wao. Wewe hujua makosa yako wewe.
Tangu lini tukashabikia mimba nje ya ndoa?
Basi yeye kaifungia kibwebwe na kuichezea ngoma hasa.
Sitasikia, sitaona na sitasema uovu wote unaofanyika hapa kisiwani. Huu maskini wako utakupeleka pabaya sana. Maana siku hizi umekuwa mtumwa wa nafsi, kisa na maana ni wewe mwanao karembo. Basi mwanamume ni msimamo. Au unaofanya sio ya kiu.
Friday night again. Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Jumamosi hii kwenye Mkulima tutakuza miche kwenye kijumba.
Tunataka kuencourage youth wapende agriculture. Unajua hapo kitambo watu walikuwa wanasema yule mtu anafanya agriculture ni yule hajasoma.
Kisha tuongeze dhamana matunda yaliyoadimika. Usikose kujumuika nami siku ya Jumamosi saa 10:30 upate uhondo kamili.
Wellness is important in our daily lives, so that instead of just surviving, we should be thriving.
Ways to prevent a stroke or heart attack is for you to know what conditions you have. By regular checkup, people don't know they have hypertension, they don't know they have diabetes.
I was pre-diabetic. I was afraid of getting lifestyle diseases because I come from a family that has lifestyle diseases.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. stay well,
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I'll take a look so I can be relieved.
No need, no need. I confirmed it. She's back. Let's go, let's go.
I still need to talk to her. What is she up to?
Why did Director Xue agree to take on my project? I'm sorry, Mr. Zhang. Yesterday, due to a personal matter, the shooting was delayed. I'll make up for it and ensure to stick to the schedule.
You heartless guy. You left me alone yesterday, and I had to listen to Chief singing old classics all night.
To argue again? My lady, you're already a married couple. Why do you two still compete with each other?
The HIV epidemic in Kenya began gaining attention in the early 1980s. By the 1990s, the virus had spread rapidly, leading to a national health crisis. At its peak, the adult prevalence rate was among the highest in the world. Today, Kenya has made remarkable progress. The adult prevalence rate has decreased significantly, but the virus still affects millions. Approximately 1.6 million people live with HIV, and the challenge remains to ensure access to treatment and prevention for all. In rural regions, accessing care can be difficult. Innovative approaches like mobile clinics and community health workers are bridging gaps in service delivery. Shining Hope for Communities Shofco, a grassroots movement based in Nairobi, Kenya, in urban slums, is providing services, community advocacy platforms, education, and leadership development for women and girls. Despite this, Shofco is also aimed at providing quality primary healthcare and healthcare education in slums communities where the prevalence of waterborne diseases, malaria and HIV, which is on the rise.
In general, our approach in terms of health service provision is that we are working on two aspects. The first aspect is the community health strategy, and then now the secondary part of it, which is now services at facility level.
In Kibra, the prevalence of HIV is significantly higher than the national average. Limited access to healthcare, coupled with high levels of stigma and misinformation, exasperates the crisis, but Shofco has come to bridge this by providing medical care.
My name is Efi Onditi. I'm a clinical officer and a clinic coordinator in Shofco Chandaria Clinic. It's one of the Shofco clinics. We have two currently. We have the services that we provide in the clinic include family planning, we have primary health care, we have laboratory pharmacy services. Also we have a CCC which deals with HIV patients and TB patients.
Counseling and support groups play a critical role in helping individuals affected by HIV. In Kibra, community health workers are on the front lines offering not just medical care, but emotional support and education.
We usually give these clients TCAs monthly, or when a client is diagnosed, we will initiate them on drugs depending on whether the client is ready. If they are not ready, we cancel the clients first until when they are ready. So we do baseline investigations, then we start monitoring them on a 2-weekly basis. Then depending on how the client is faring on, we progress them to a month, then after every 3 months. Others will even give them TCAs of up to 6 months.
Two residents from Kibra, Susan Ligare and Bernard Owino, have come out proudly to speak about their HIV status and how they are mobilizing the community to get tested and know their status.
Niligundua tarehe 12 mwezi wa 4 2017, na vile niligundua si mara ya kwanza, nilienda hospitali tu kale ka chemist nikaenda kupimwa. Sasa ile hali ilifanya nikaenda kupimwa ile herpes. nilikuwa na herpes kwa mwili. Sasa ndio huyo daktari akanituma kwa Shofco niende nitipiwe huko. Kufika kule nikapata niko na virusi. Si kufa moyo. Nikaingia nikapimwa, tukatanisha na huyo daktari, lakini nikamwambia lazima utanipima na utanipa result zangu. Nikapimwa, ijapokuwa haikuwa rahisi, lakini nilikubali yote sababu ilikuwa imeshanipata. Nikatipiwa na nikapimwa, nikapata HIV positive, nikachukupali. Hiyo siku ndio nilianza kutumia dawa yangu hiyo tarehe 12 mwezi wa 4 2017. Mpaka leo ningali natumia dawa zangu.
Nilijua kwa kupimwa, hali ya HIV, nikapimwa, nikapatikana niko na virusi. Nilipimwa 2016 mwezi wa 10. Nikapatikana niko na virusi. Immediately nika-enroll kwa dawa. Nikaanza kumeza dawa, mpaka sasa hivi naendelea kumeza dawa. Na wakati ya kwanza dawa kwa mara kwanza kulikuwa na changamoto za kawaida za dawa zilikuwa nazo. Kuna effects kidogo ambayo ilikuwa inaleta mwili kwa sababu hazikuwa zimezoea mwili. Sasa kuna wakati ilikuwa inaleta shida kidogo, lakini nirudi nikazoea nikaenda dawa mpaka sasa naendelea kwa dawa.
Despite advancements, stigma and discrimination remain significant barriers. Many people living with HIV face a lot of fear to know about their status, which can deter them from seeking testing and treatment. Susan and Bernard help in sensitizing the community on the importance of testing.
Wanakipira kama hapa Kibira. Kila mara huwa nawaelezea, ukiwa mgonjwa si usikue mwaraka wa kwenda hospitali, unameza madawa. Enda pima hali yako, ujue vile uko. Kama uko HIV positive, ndio uanze dawa, lakini usikue una mwaraka wa kwenda kwa chemist ukinunua dawa, na nawaambia waendelee kupimwa.
Kwa shauri yangu nimeona hakuna haja mtu waogope. Ni heri ujijue mapema kuliko ugunduliwe kama pengine umelala chini. Watu wengi watajua sana. Unajua ukienda peke yako ujigundue, utajua mapema. Ukienda kama uko mzima, uko na afya yako ya kawaida, unaenda kama unatembea peke yako, unaweza jieleza peke yako, unapimwa, unarudi nyumbani ukijua niko na virusi ama mimi sina. Na wakati utaenda na mtu, unajua watu wengi ambao wanaweka siri. Yeye pengine atatoka siri yako. Pengine atambii mtu mwingine akifikia na mweleze kumbe hapana. Yeye mwenyewe hali yako, alafu aanze dawa.
Women living with HIV are more likely to access HIV testing and antiretroviral therapy than men. This is due to better health-seeking behavior among women and the existence of HIV-related services designed specifically to reach women, such as services to prevent mother-to-child HIV transmission that are provided during antenatal care.
One of the areas that is a challenge, that has a challenge, is on ANC, because when you're testing our pregnant mothers, it is always advisable that they come with their partners. So in most cases, you find that it is the female clients that comes, but their partners are never anywhere. Even in testing in general, it's always the female who are tested more than their male counterparts. Yeah, and then testing in youths is also on the low. Yeah, they are not turning up in numbers as expected. And one of the things that you're noting is that HIV infection currently is becoming common in the youth. Yes, but in terms of testing, I think the uptake is not so good. I think it's because of maybe some of them are afraid, they don't want to be judged, and you know, the fear of coming to a health facility and being seen by someone that so-and-so went here. So I think that is one of the areas that scares them. So we've tried as a facility to put the HIV testing room aside, somewhere that is a bit private, so anyone can walk in there anytime and they get tested. Yes. And then we're also doing a lot of advocacy through our community health promoters and also the support groups that we are conducting.
It's positive, mostly on the factor of females. On the male, we are still struggling because we find when you diagnose a female client, you encourage them to bring their spouses. The turnout on the male counterpart hasn't been quite so good, but we keep on trying.
In the fight against HIV, knowledge is power. Every individual has a critical role in ensuring their health and contributing to the broader public health efforts. It's a key step in managing personal health, preventing transmission and ending stigma.
Kwa jumla kwa Kenya sasa hivi ni mtu akitaka afe na HIV akiona stigma kwenda kupimwa mwenyewe agopa, lakini sasa hizi hii kitu ni kama kitu kawaida. Ni kama hizi vitu vingine tu unatibia kama hizi za kawaida. Sasa hiki ambacho ni tisha pekee ni kaanza pekee yake ndio tisha. Lakini sisi kwa wengine kama tuko na hii, hatuoni kama tisha kwetu. Tunaona maisha kawaida, tunaishi kama watu wengine. Kama mtu tukisema pale nje, tuko sana watu wengine hao. Yeah. Hakuna siku nasikia mtu ya HIV ameenda malazo chini au kwa order tamalala, hapana. Yako sawa kawaida kwa sababu anatumia dawa kwa njia vizuri. Anajua hali yake. Unakula. Unajua kuna watu wanasema kukula vizuri. Sasa lazima uko na pesa mingi ukule mzuri. Balance diet ni chakula hata kuna shilingi 50 una balance diet yako na balance inaingiana. Kwa hivyo pengine mtu anasema sina pesa kula mzuri, hapana. Balance diet kuna 50 boba kibira unakula una balance diet yako, unakata afya kawaida, utafanya kazi kama watu wengine kama kawaida. Isipokuwa mwenyewe uko na stigma unaanza kujishuku.
Taking care of oneself with HIV involves a combination of medical management, lifestyle advancements and emotional support.
Kama wale wenye wako na hali kama yangu wasikifa moyo, wao watie Mungu mbele na wasiache dawa. Wana time ya kumeza, wasiache. Ikuwe ni kama ni saa 2 ni saa 2 na waendelee. Wakiendelea hivyo hata sisi wenye tu, hata mimi mmoja wao ninaendelea, hata niko na watoto wako negative. Sasa waendelee na mapa morale.
Kenya is on course to end HIV and AIDS as a public health threat by 2027 as directed by President William Ruto. The Sustainable Development Goals aims to end HIV and AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. President Ruto last year pushed Kenya's goal to 2027.
HIV-related commodities are estimated to cost between Kenya shillings 27 or between 27 and 30 billion annually. And owing to a decline in donor support, the funding gap now stands at US dollars 11.7 million. The government is committed to progressively increase domestic funding in order to sustain the gains made so far in partnership with PEPFAR.
The journey to overcoming HIV in Kenya is ongoing. It is a story of struggle, resilience, and unwavering hope. Together, communities, healthcare workers, and individuals continue to fight for a future where HIV is no longer a shadow of our lives.
Wenzako wako chapu chapu. Wanashiriki ndoto za usingizini.
Ala. Mambo muhimu kama hayo unaita upuzi. Hayo ni mambo ya kitoto.
No. Kitu kama kiko hakifichiki. Ama kweli wasohaya wana mji wao. Wewe hujua makosa yako wewe.
Tangu lini tukashabikia mimba nje ya ndoa? Basi yeye kaifungia kibwebwe na kuichezea ngoma hasa.
Sitasikia, sitaona na sitasema uovu wote unaofanyika hapa kisiwani. Huu maskini wako utakupeleka pabaya sana. Maana siku hizi umekuwa mtumwa wa nafsi, kisa na maana ni mwanao karembo. Basi mwanamume ni msimamo. Au unaofanya sio ya kiu.
Ya Shafi ya Rasulullah ya Shaymadina.
Ni mambo gani ambayo sisi huwafunza wadogo zetu ili waweze kupata manufaa katika dunia na kesho akhera?
Ni maneno yenye kupandana, maneno yenye kuzidi, maneno ya ziada.
ni neno moja, lakini ina uwingi wake, ina faida mingi ndani yake.
Moyoni hadishi kwa yale nilosikia.
Okay, welcome back. This is Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for staying with us. And on our next conversation right now, we will be talking about giving back to the community. And joining me for that conversation is one Gideon Mwangi Gathemba. He is the co-founder, Gathemba Edwards Foundation. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
Yeah, I'm good.
You're well?
I'm well.
All right, let us begin by first getting to understand what the foundation is all about.
Gathemba Edwards Foundation is a foundation that myself and my co-founder, Miles Edwards from Scotland, we started way back in the year 2014 with objective of supporting less privilege in the society, that is mainly in education. Myself, professionally, I'm an athlete, and I met him as I attended one of the ceremony in his home city, Aberdeen. That is Aberdeen Sport Village. And from that day, we became good friends. And later, he visited me in Kenya. Lucky enough, we chanced to visit one of home that support less privileged children in Karatina. And that is where the idea of starting this organization or charitable organization started with 22 children.
Okay. What was the reason behind starting it? Like what prompted you to get to start it now and have it based on that, like it is educational, you are supporting, you know, children go through their education?
Myself, I was born in a family of 7, and the way I was brought up, it was not well up. Going to school, used to walk for about 6 kilometers in the morning and then in the evening. And many other times that I was sent home because of lack of school fees. So that really steamed me when I was in a position to start this foundation, or when I met this friend of mine, because of the challenges that I went through when I was young. I was feeling like if I get a chance to support, I can just give back to the community. And that is what was pushing me and still pushing me until now. Yeah.
You mentioned you have 22 children that you're supporting, or the number has gone up since then?
Yeah, we started with 22. We got more people supporting. Now as we talk, we have over 600.
Wow.
And we are limited by resources. If we get more money, we can reach more. And we have more programs that go hand in hand with education. You know, for a child to achieve his or her dream, there are things that have to go hand in hand. They have to feed, they have to have good clothes, nice houses. We have all these programs, and even supporting them psychologically. That is, we do counseling to make sure that they do it well. If there is any challenge, we counsel them, we show them the way. Yeah.
What would you say are some of the pressing needs in the community right now?
The most pressing thing right now, as far as children are concerned, is school fees. Right now, being back to school day, you go to my office, there are so many people requesting for support. So the most challenging thing right now is school fees, because, okay, the government is doing nice thing, supporting, but it is not enough. We need people to support more, or to support whatever government is doing. So if we can have more people having this kind of idea, the world would be a better place for us.
A better place to be in.
Yeah.
How do we go about making a lasting impact? You know, impact that is not just temporary.
The moment we educate a child, we change the whole world. Like now, I thank God so much because we started with 22, and some of them have graduated and they are working. We have produced doctors, we have produced technicians, people who are now building our country, who are able to rely on themselves. So if you educate one child, then you change the whole world for the better.
Yeah. And also, you know, with giving back to the community, it's not for everyone, I would say. You know, not everyone can take that mantle upon themselves and say that, you know, I want to start something that will be able to give back to maybe the community that raised me or the community that is around me. What would you say drives you?
Say again?
What drives you to keep doing this?
Giving is something that is in person. Myself, I was supported also by the community because my parents were not up and they could not, they would not be able to support me to the level that I would wish. But I was supported by members of community. So I also have to give back, to appreciate. And the only way that I can appreciate is by holding somebody's hand. I educate, I show the way. And it is my joy to see that I hold somebody's hand from the lowest level to the highest. So it is my joy to see that I support, I show direction. I make somebody from a nobody, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, you have around 600 students that you are supporting, you know, from the foundation. Maybe how do you go about picking who is to be part of this initiative?
Being a founder, I'm also a church member. I attend a church in my hometown. So I meet so many people in the church. I also work hand in hand with the administrator, that is chiefs, assistant chiefs, village elders. So they bring the cases because they are the people who are in contact with people in the villages and they know the needy people. So when they bring the case to our attention, we go on ground. We do our assessment. If we are satisfied, then we start the journey. Yeah.
So you work with churches, you work
churches,
with
teachers, and administrations
as well. What's the importance of having such foundations, or generally just what's the importance of giving back to the community?
As I said earlier, when we educate a child, we change the entire society for the better. And because right now, if you educate a child and he or she become a doctor, they'll be saving lives in the hospitals. If they become, if one become a teacher, they will be equipping children as far as knowledge is concerned. So everyone can become a world changer by contributing or doing just something a little. And it is not necessary that you give so much. Just a little thing that can make a difference. Once we combine the effort, 10 shillings, 20 shillings, you buy a book, you buy a piece of a book, a pencil, rubber, it make a difference.
Yeah. Where's the best place to start? You know, for someone who maybe has been having that dream, or it's part of their goal to maybe start up something that would be helpful to the community, not just in education, but maybe in one way or the other, maybe help with sanitation and all that. Probably, how would you advise one to start?
Myself, I can say that starting this foundation was God-driven, because it is something that I had not planned. Throughout my career, I met Miles Edward, my co-founder. We visited Karatina. So it is not something that I was planning. It is something that is God-driven. And I can say that if something is God-driven, it will expand. It will have no boundaries. So because I did not have plan, but it came in me, I started it, and it is expanding in a God way. So I cannot explain how I can. I cannot advise somebody how to start, because this came in me in a God way. Yeah.
So you can't really give the steps on how to go about, you know, maybe starting up a foundation that is giving back or something of the sort.
Yeah, maybe I can only advise depending on what person want to start. I can advise, but I cannot tell you this is the way to go. Yeah.
So you're saying if you have the vision and you just start?
Yeah, you just start. And you know, even the Bible says that you write your vision in big number, you know. So if you have any vision, you are not limited by anything. You just go on, start, God will give you direction. Yeah.
Okay. And what would you say are some of the challenges maybe that face such foundations or organizations that give back to the society?
There are a lot of challenges. One, financial challenges. Right now in my waiting list, I have so many people who are requesting for support, but because of limited sponsors or people who support us, we are not able to reach to the number that we would wish. If we can have more people supporting us, then we'll be in a position to reach out more. So financial challenges is one of the biggest, I can say, challenges that we have. Number two, many other times that, you know, we are dealing with the youth, and they also have their challenges. We need to keep monitoring them, keep showing them the way, keep advising them, and for that matter, we have that department that deals with counseling. And we have seen it work. Initially, we used to support, sometimes you can support, you give your hand, but because of the pressure of the youth, they go out of the way. And we even had some of them dropping out of the school, and it's a challenge to the youth, we understand. So there are things that we have done, we have come together and we have advised and we have seen it work. Number three, we also have parents who don't understand that we are there to support or we are supporting them. They think that it is their right, or they think because we have donors from abroad, we have a lot of money, we can support them with everything that they need, forgetting that we're there to support them. We're there to support their kids in education, and we are getting support from people. So they end up forgetting. So they relax, that is as far as their responsibilities are concerned. So they leave everything to us, and that have been a big challenge, I can say, among the challenges that we have.
Yeah, and how do you deal with such challenges now?
As I mentioned, we have that department that do counseling from parent, from also the beneficiaries themselves, that is the children. And we thank God so much because we have people who have been volunteering, professional counselors. They come, they say, we are going to offer 3 hours in a day, that is in a week. And in case you have any case that would need our attention, please let us know. We are going to offer ourselves, and that is how we have been tackling the issue.
Yeah. And maybe what more should be done in order to support such initiatives, and maybe who would you call upon to come on board?
As I mentioned earlier, we have a lot of programs that would need support so that this vision grow or expand further. We have people who don't have a place that they can call home. And for that matter, we came up with the ideas of building villages or a place that they can call home.
Okay.
And we have managed to build, to buy our own plot. One is in A10, Elgeyo Marakwet. The other one is in Nyeri County. The other one, the latest one, is in Kirinyaga. So we have been building houses for the families that don't have a place that they can call home. And we have brought smile in their faces, because imagine you don't have money to pay rent, you don't have a place to call home, you are worried where you will go tomorrow, and you have kids. So we have managed to build several villages. So and to build a house, you know, you need iron sheet, you need cement, you need all these stuffs. So in case we have anyone who would, or anyone who can be in a position to build a house, we don't build houses that cost a lot of money. We build and we equip the houses with furnitures and all that. So somebody may ask how they can chip in. If they have, anyone would have iron sheet, a kilogram of nails, a bag of cement, things like that, solar panels, because for the areas that we have the villages, the easiest or the cheapest way to manage, we do solar panels to light the houses. So there are many ways that people can chip in.
Yeah. Do you feel like we have enough of such initiatives around? You know, for yours, you're dealing with around 600 children. I'm sure there are many, many more who need that kind of help. From your perspective, and since you deal with the community, do you feel we have enough of such initiatives?
It is not enough. I can say, for sure I can say it is not enough. If we could have more people coming up with these kind of ideas, we will make the world a better place, as I said in the beginning. So it is not enough, to be honest. We need people to come on board, because we know, or in the villages, we have seen people or children walking to school with barefooted. We have seen children going to school, they don't take breakfast. They don't take, even in the evening when they come back home, they don't know, the parents don't know where they will get food for the kids from. They go to bed without food. And it is a big challenge. So if we have people who can volunteer, especially to public primary schools, that is why we have a lot of challenges. People come to school, they have not taken breakfast, they don't know where, or parents are not in a position to pay for the lunches if it's there. And it's challenging. Even uniforms, it's a big challenge. So we need people come in and support these kind of ideas. If you're there, you can support the school that you think is going a lot of challenges. You can feed a child or two, and then God will bless you. Imagine a young kid, 8, 10 years, going to school without breakfast. And there is somebody somewhere in his or her store, there's a lot of food. We need to be to have that big heart, you know. When you feed a child for a day or two, surely you will open doors for your blessings.
For sure. So maybe as we come to an end of this conversation, what impact would you say it has made so far?
I can say that we have, there's a lot of impact because we have some of our beneficiaries who are working. We have a doctor, we have one of our boy who we educated is now working in Kerugoya as a doctor, and we feel so much proud of that.
And you started educating this boy from around what age?
From class 6.
From class 6.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm proud of that. You know, to hold somebody's hand and by the end of the day, he or she become a doctor. And we have many other achievements that we can say. So I can say that we are proud of what we are doing, and we look even forward to doing more. Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe what other success stories would you love to tell us about?
Because it was born, the foundation idea was born as a true athlete. Myself and my co-founder, Miles Edward, met. I can advise the parent to show their kid the way, especially now that we have CBC system that is in education. Myself, I was supported by my parent because of that talent. And I managed to go all the way internationally because of their support. So for the parent, if they realize that their kids have a talent, it's good they support the talent. They never know. It might be of benefit in the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Mr. Gathemba, thank you so much for joining us and for talking to us about giving back to the society. Maybe your last remarks?
I would call upon Kenyans to come up with this idea to make Kenya a better place, and mostly to support in education and anything that can add value in somebody's life. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us. That was Mr. Gideon Mwangi Gathemba, who is the co-founder of Gathemba Edwards Foundation, and we were talking about giving back to the community. And one thing I've taken from him, you can, as long as you have the resources, if you are able to pick someone, a person or two, just pick a hand or two to help and support, you would make the world a better place to live in. This is where we end this particular conversation, but don't you go too far. Good Morning Kenya gets to continue in a bit.
watu wakipata shida wanaanza kuona ni kama huu Mungu haexist. And many people have used this as a platform of argument.
And like many other topics,
yes,
faith is one of those topics that the Bible has a definition.
Okay.
Faith is the assurance of things hoped for, the conviction of things that are expected, things that are to come.
Faith is not the absence of facts.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice, we
have to do it twice.
Have you ever wondered what exactly makes a green and sustainable city? Well, that's a big question and not one we can answer in 25 minutes. But on this week's edition of Eco Africa, we'll be exploring as many aspects of the question as possible. So welcome to the show. I am Sandra Kahumza Twinobdio, right here in Uganda.
The more people move to cities, the more important it is to make sure they are livable and future-proof. That involves everything from social and environmental factors to alternative mobility options. I am Chris Alems from Nigeria. Here's what is coming up. Why solar-powered vehicles made in Tunisia will soon be found in other African countries too. What do so-called heat officers do to help us cope with extreme temperatures? And how bicycles are taking over the streets of Kampala. Have you noticed that groceries have become a lot more expensive recently? You're not the only one. Climate change, the war in Ukraine, and the effect of COVID-19 are all contributing to escalating food prices. So what about growing your fruit and veg? We head to Johannesburg to check out a pioneering urban gardening project.
Nestled up to the high-rise offices of downtown Johannesburg lies Lawrenceville, but it's no high-income neighborhood. In South Africa, food prices rose by 14% this year, and residents here are barely scraping by.
Every day is hard. Sometimes they rotten. As you can see, the green peppers. I see last time, I usually buy the box 35 rand. Last week I go there, I see the box, it was 75 rand.
As long as the petrol is going up, the food will surely go up. The food will surely go up. So, hey, managing nowadays, we have to cut.
One way out of the predicament could be urban agriculture. The Victoria Yards precinct in Lawrenceville is just one example of what could be possible in Johannesburg. At this revamped industrial site, Matsupiso Makabane wants to motivate urban dwellers to grow and process their own food.
This is beautiful. This is mint. It's very good. You can even put it on TV. Oh, I'm saying on TV. In your tea. I love tea so much.
Here, Johannesburg's self-proclaimed Green Lady heads the Green Business College, a place dedicated to inspiring people to get their hands dirty in the soil and make a living from it.
The green economy is big. So at the college, much as we cover all those sectors that I mentioned, we start with the low-hanging fruits. The low-hanging fruits, we start at the beginning, and the beginning is food.
For about 75 euros, the college offers a 5-day workshop teaching skills to grow organic food, cook it, and preserve it. Today, Makabane is teaching her students to make pear chutney and how to pickle vegetables for storage. It's done with household staples like vinegar, sugar, or salt. But the Green Business College also goes beyond planting, cooking, and preserving.
We couple this training with business skills and exposure because we are a business college. And we also want them to be entrepreneurs, to just go beyond doing these chutneys for themselves.
I attended a compost class that taught me that you can also make a garden on the hard surface. You cannot say, I don't have space. There's also tires. Actually, that's what I learned, that we can actually convert our waste into something productive.
South Africa can produce enough to feed its population, but in 2020, 1 in 4 households went hungry because of the rising costs. Making healthy food affordable was one reason Kolofelo Mpogo got into agriculture. He graduated from the Green Business College 4 years ago and now runs a small urban farm in the north of Johannesburg. The trained musician believes that people in cities need to relearn how to grow their own food. On his plot, he regularly teaches young locals basic farming principles.
I hope to see everyone not complaining about hunger anymore, because we'll take this to backyard gardens so that everyone